Welcome to a new podcast with the two mics.
Is that it?
What do you mean, is that it?
Is that your intro to our podcast?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
It lacks passion, it lacks power, it lacks energy. It should be, hello folks, welcome to a new podcast from the two mics.
Dear me.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Hawksby and Jacobs are on 2 weeks of intensive training at Butlin Space Camp in Filey. So Mike Parry and Mike Graham are here instead.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two mics and we're minding the stall for Hawksby and Jacobs for another week. So, Leicester City have proved everyone wrong, including the bookies who paid out around £15 million already on the Premier League champions. Of course, Mike Parry was among those who said Claudio Ranieri would be a disaster. I'll be reminding him of that exactly. We've got Piers Morgan on the show today who'll tell us why he wants Arsenal to pinch the top manager in the country. Comedian Leicester fanatic Jim Smallman's here as well to tell us where he was when they won it all. And legendary Grammy Award-winning producer Steve Lillywhite will tell us why his beloved Chelsea finally played like a top four team last night to get Tottenham out of the running. 08717 223344. Also coming up on the show, we've got the result of winners and losers, and it's Ask Porky as well. So if you've got a problem that needs solving, today is the day to get it sorted out. You're listening to the two mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. You might have heard a bit of banging around there in the background. It was Mr. Parry settling himself. I wish you'd stop doing all that while we're in the midst of a live radio programme. You know? Emptying your faux leather bag, getting the headphones out, plugging them in, banging the microphone, banging the desk. I mean, you know, this is a big day, very celebratory day for people.
Setting up the studio is vital to the atmosphere that surrounds you whilst you're getting the show underway.
Really?
And sometimes you have to clear it from for those before you.
What, you're saying it was a bit of a mess?
Well, yeah, I find that a bit of a nuisance, you know. People should treat their studio like their home.
Nobody's interested
in that. You know what I mean?
Nobody's interested
now,
in that.
Could I just say something, fat mouth?
I beg your pardon?
You said, yes, fat mouth is an absolutely appropriate description of you.
Is that right?
You said that I was amongst those who, what was your exact expression?
Said that Claudio Ranieri would be a disaster.
Yes. Could you give me that quote, please?
I'd be more than happy to give you the quote. The quote, as was reproduced in a couple of the papers this morning.
Well, exactly.
Claudio Ranieri joins Leicester. Weird move, that, says Porky. The Tinkerman returns. I went to Monaco when he completely screwed up the European tie.
And is there one single word in that quote that is inaccurate or in any way offensive to Claudio Ranieri?
Yes, weird move, that, I would say.
Well, it is a weird move. He'd just been sacked by Greece.
Right.
And Greece had just lost to the Faroe Islands, so no wonder he was sacked.
Well, it just shows you how little you know.
So that was a weird move.
And many other people know about the appointment of people and how it works, because I was, of course, as you will no doubt attest, one of the few people who said Claudio Ranieri going to Leicester will be fantastic for them. Absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, where's that written down?
And so it was not written down. I said it on the radio. I said it on the radio when he was appointed.
Sorry, where's it written down?
I know. Well, it doesn't need to be written down when you say it on the radio. Do you want me to find the clip for you?
Well, I don't think you'll be able to, mate.
I think I will.
Oh, I don't think you will.
Because I think if you look at Twitter, as it has been for the last several weeks, actually, people have been saying that, you know, absolutely Mike Graham is one of the few people, any pundit around the country, around the world, who actually said Claudio Ranieri would be great for Leicester.
Oh, rubbish. That's only because you spent all day yesterday telling people, oh, by the way, I back Claudio Ranieri.
No, that's not true.
You can't back it up with any sort of a quote.
That's not true.
Let me just compare my quote, which was wholly accurate.
So you're telling me that quotes written down are the only quotes that matter?
Well, the only ones that
So everything that you say on the radio doesn't matter?
The only ones that are set in stone are those that you can reproduce, either audio-wise, which you can't reproduce,
well, I could do, yeah.
or you can see it in print.
Could do, but it doesn't matter that much to
me.
Are
you telling me when I said I went to Monaco when he completely screwed up the European tie that there's anything inaccurate about that?
I'm not saying it's inaccurate.
I was there.
I'm not saying it's inaccurate. I'm saying that you said as a result of that he would be no good. Whereas on the other hand, you think Gary Neville, who's had a complete disaster in Valencia, will somehow be a great manager.
Hang on. Let me compare.
Let me read you this from Neil. A lot of journos saying they all thought Ranieri would be a disaster. This is true. However, in the case of Mike Graham, I remember him saying that he would be very good.
No, he remembers. He
remembers
you. He remembers you trying to remind millions of listeners that you said he'd be good.
Richard Hurst.
I don't ever remember hearing that.
Well, you don't remember what happened yesterday. Richard Hurst
is
says,
that right?
Mike Graham, the only broadcaster and journalist who got it right about Leicester. So much for the supposed experts.
Yeah, the Guardian's football editor, Marcus Christensen, described the appointment as baffling. If they wanted someone to keep them in the Premier League, then they may have got the wrong guy. And even better, a guy here called Charlie Hurley printed a picture of Coco the Clown and said, Mr. Claudio
Who's Charlie
Ranieri, Coco
Hurley?
the Clown. He's chief fan at Leicester, apparently.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking to Cliff Ginetta, who's from the Leicester City Supporters Club. I'm sure he'll be very, very spot on all of this.
I never...
Refine says this. I remember MG saying at the start of the season how good Ranieri would be. Well done.
Oh, I don't remember that, I tell you.
Richard says, spot on, MG. You were the only voice in the entire British media who said they would do it and not slip up. All of this stuff is written down. I'm sure that you will now probably admit to the fact that I was the only person in the media, as Mickey says, who tipped Ranieri, and that was me.
I'm going to kill your argument stone dead.
You couldn't kill anything stone dead.
I have
made...
overnight, whilst you've been bladderated and, and not paying attention...
I took my daughter and her fiancé out for dinner last
Very
night.
Nice, that's excellent. Yeah. Well done.
Because I have a daughter to take out for
dinner. Good to see you're a family man. I have put together my own tribute to the great Claudio...
Nobody wants to hear that.
To the great Claudio Ranieri. Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City. Leicester used to be a tip, but now he's gone and won them the Premiership. Next year Leicester play at Inter Milan. They won't believe the manager's the tinker man. Oh, Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City. Right, so what do you think about that?
How long were you up doing that?
Excuse me, what do you think about that?
It doesn't even rhyme.
Well, of course it rhymes.
You can't rhyme tip with ship.
I didn't.
Right, you
did. No.
And you're saying Leicester was a tip.
Well,
is that what you said?
Well, it used to be, didn't it? It used to be a bit of a tip.
You're saying Leicester as a city is a tip.
I've never said that. How dare you put words in my mouth? I said the whole thing was a bit of a mess. But now, suddenly overnight, on the same day, they managed to get themselves the Premier League Championship trophy. Well, certainly within 24 hours.
And how do you know they're playing Inter Milan next year?
Well, I don't, do I? But I mean...
Do you know where Inter Milan are in the Serie A table?
Let me just tell you this.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you this.
They might be playing Juventus.
Well, they could be playing Juventus, indeed.
But that didn't rhyme, did it?
No,
so
you
just
fool.
Put any old rubbish in there.
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, you idiot.
So as usual, you've turned Leicester City's fantastic Premier League winning season
into
something about you.
No.
That's what you do. It's all about you.
No.
It's all what you said about it.
Don't you
what
understand?
You can now say about it. Now you can do a song about it.
Excuse me.
Unbelievable.
Don't you understand that Inter Milan is so iconic as an international football team in the realms of leagues that Leicester would never normally
play?
play?
They're not really called Inter Milan. They're just called Inter.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're still in Milan, aren't they? Have you ever been to the San Siro?
No.
No, of course you haven't. Have you ever been to anywhere in Europe?
Yeah, I've been to the Barcelona ground, the new camp.
The new camp. Yeah.
Have you been there?
No.
Oh,
that's
so that makes us even
fully off to one I haven't been to.
No,
I've been everywhere else.
I've been to see an El Clasico there.
Yeah, I've been to El Clasico.
You've been everywhere else, have you?
Yeah.
Everywhere. Oh, really?
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
Well, let's see where you haven't been.
Okay.
Right? You've been to Bayern Munich's ground, then?
Oh, of course.
You have? Have you been to Borussia Dortmund?
Maybe.
No.
No, I can't always remember.
You can't remember?
Been to a lot of football grounds.
You can't remember the football grounds you've been to?
Listen, man. I've seen England play in Russia. I've seen, the Champions League final.
Whose stadium was that?
Eh?
Whose stadium was that?
Well, it's got a Russian name. It's called something like the Maya Tarkovsky or something. Eh?
Who plays there?
I'll tell you who plays there. Moscow Dynamo.
Dynamo Moscow.
Dynamo Moscow.
Sure it's not CSKA Moscow.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's Russian. I don't pronounce it in Russian because you always want it pronounced in English because you're too thick to translate it.
Have you been to Lazio's ground?
Lazio. Yes, I have, yes.
Have you been to Napoli's ground?
No, but I wouldn't want to go to Napoli's ground.
Have you been to Porto's ground?
I have been to Porto's ground.
Have you been to Benfica's ground?
I have been to Benfica's ground.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay, so have you been to Hamburg's ground?
Hamburg? No, wouldn't want to go there. No. It's a slum.
So you haven't been everywhere then?
What?
So you haven't been everywhere?
Well, I've been everywhere that matters, put it that way. Okay?
All right.
Anywhere
Are you going
that
to the Leicester game at the weekend with Everton?
No.
Why not?
It's going to be painful.
Why? It's a celebration.
It is a celebration, but I think Everton have got more resources.
Why don't you have to go and sing your Jesus Christ Superstar
than Leicester
at the half-time whistle?
I naturally wish that Everton, my team, had filled the vacuum that was left when the Big Four this season didn't match up to what we expected they would do. Right. A team was waiting to move in.
I see.
Could have been Spurs, And it nearly was, but it wasn't. It was Leicester.
We've got to talk about Spurs.
Brilliant
We've got to
job.
talk a lot about Spurs.
Brilliant
They
job.
seem to have lost the plot, it would seem. They might not even come second now. We're going to talk to Piers Morgan later.
Yeah, I think they probably will.
Arsenal might nip second place off them. You never know.
I would think that's very unlikely.
We shall see. Coming up next, though, we're going to talk to Cliff Ginetta, Leicester Supporters Club chairman. This is talkSPORT.
Mark Clattenburg blows the whistle. Spurs haven't won here. They have been held to a 2-2 draw, and it means that Leicester City are the Barclays Premier League champions. The Chelsea players wanted to do it for Leicester and Ranieri. They've done it for Leicester and for Ranieri. They come from 2 goals down. It's finished Chelsea 2, Spurs 2.
And it was some game last night at Stamford Bridge. We talked to Steve Lillywhite, big Chelsea fan, of course, about what it means for Chelsea beating Spurs and actually playing like a top 4 team for once this season. Eden Hazard suddenly found his football
He did, didn't he?
And nobody knows quite why.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Cliff Ginetta here very shortly, Leicester Supporters Club chairman. Let me just read you a couple of these things. It says here, from Ben, Dear MG, may I be the first among those to congratulate you on backing Ranieri from the start and also saying from early on in the season that Leicester would keep on top. You were spot on, but Porky, time for you to eat humble pie, mate. You and almost all pundits got it totally wrong. Mark in Belfast says, afternoon, lads. MG has been saying all season that there was no reason at all why Leicester couldn't win the league. So there's just a small selection of those tweets coming in. You can tweet us, of course, at the 2 mics and at IROMG or at Mike Parry.
At least I'm big enough to have, paid tribute to Claudio Ranieri.
Yeah, in a very odd way.
In a way other people haven't, you know what I mean?
In a very odd way. For example, you've got a few mistakes in there, though. Matty says this. Porky's song to Ranieri says, win the Premiership. It hasn't been known as that for ages. It's Premier League.
Yeah, but Premier League didn't rhyme.
And I know it didn't. And Rich says, and Inter Milan can't qualify for the Champions League next season.
Yes,
Porky.
I know that. It's iconic, isn't it, going to Inter Milan? It's a San Siro, you know what I mean? It's one of the great European football grounds, which Leicester fans would never have expected to even contemplate going to.
Right.
OK?
Well, let's talk to Cliff Ginetta, because nobody wants to hear about your mealy-mouthed tribute to a man that you've been saying would be useless all season.
I never said that. I never said
Cliff, a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Now, it's been great this morning. Everywhere you listen on talkSPORT, there's Leicester fans ringing in from various places, people doing all sorts of stuff, celebrating, recovering, all of that. How was your celebration? You sound remarkably chipper.
Well, I am now, yes. I was a bit groggy this morning when I eventually got up. We didn't get to bed too early, gone 3 o'clock, out celebrating.
Right.
It was fantastic. It was the party to end all parties, really, and it'll go on all week. So, it's the dream come true, and I think the old city, to see an old city party like that, we don't see in this country very often.
Well, it never looked as though at any point Leicester fans actually doubted that it would happen, as much as, every time you turned on a TV or the radio or looked in the papers, at some point every month of the season, somebody was saying, oh yeah, but it's bound to all go horribly wrong at some point. But I don't think Leicester fans ever doubted it.
Well, I don't think we did. We didn't want to talk about it. We didn't say a lot about it, but... right from Christmas, it's looked, definitely on. Before that, we were doing really well. I thought, we could shake the whole league up here. But since Christmas, I think, we have felt it. But we wanted to push it over the line. It'd been lovely to do it at Old Trafford on Sunday, but that weren't to be. So it'd lovely to get it done last night, to be honest, and. And start the party.
Start the party, yeah. Cliff, can I say that apart from the magnificent achievement, and it truly is, do you also realise that Leicester as a club and you as a group of fans have broken the mould? Now, I know that's an old cliche, broken the mould. They broke the mould, when this guy was born, all that kind of stuff. But what you've done is you've now made it clear that any football team can go onto the pitch in a Premier League game and don't have to be beaten before they start against one of the so-called Big Four. The Big Four just simply disappeared sometime this season and your lot moved in. And the game that really turned it round, in my view, was away to Manchester City. Everybody thought that's where you'd finally be, put to order, that, you'd be slapped down. Exactly.
Put to the sword is the phrase
you'd be slapped down and all that kind of stuff, and you didn't. So what you've done is you've opened up massive expectancies for a range of clubs, which I'd call, middle-ranking, formerly middle-ranking clubs.
Is there a question anywhere in this?
Excuse me, just shut your mouth.
Sorry about this,
please.
Cliff.
And that's the contribution you've made to football at the highest level.
Well, I think
so. It's not a question. Go ahead, Cliff.
Cliff, I'm so sorry. This guy's just empty-headed. Anyway, go on.
Excited. Yeah, it gets us going. I say that is what we've showing to the rest of football, that you needn't feel second rate. If you all stick together, I think that's the key. I think since we got relegated a few years ago to the old First Division, the club has come back and everybody stuck together. The players, the managers, all right, managers have moved on, but everybody's stuck together, and it's been a concerted effort by everybody. We just really pumped it and really got it going, and it's worked. And anybody can do that now. I think the players, we're lucky all the stars have aligned above us and the right players have come in, but it's the right work ethic, and we need to keep that work ethic going, and that's down to Nigel Pearson. The work ethic that the players have got and the camaraderie, I think that's down to them.
How much praise does he deserve? How much praise does Nigel Pearson deserve for what happened this season?
I think he deserves a lot. I mean, he was not somebody I particularly got on with or really liked, because he never seemed to have a plan B. But he made people work, and he got them collectively together. He brought a young band of players in, brought two good coaches in. Steve Walsh, who finds all these starlets, and Shaky, who does the coaching. And so he's got to take his share of this. And we needed to move him on. We needed a bit more tactical awareness. We needed a bit more, something special. And Claudio's brought that in bucketfuls.
Well, what he's done brilliantly, Cliff, is most of the games that Leicester have won have been with very, very small possession statistics with the ball. I mean, they beat Manchester City, as Mike said, in that game with, I think, 35% possession of the ball. And they've changed the way football's played in this country. I wonder how many managers next year will try and copy that. This whole Barcelona, let's keep the ball all the time. Leicester have completely turned down his head, haven't they?
Well, we've seen that already. We've seen teams that, we beat Sunderland quite easily the other week, but watching them the following week on TV, they've stolen a few of our ideas and we're playing our way. We notice in one or two clubs now that, let's get some wingers on, let's get the ball forward, let's let the goalie get the ball out. We don't play a long ball, but get the ball out quickly and not particularly play it through the backs, but get it forward quickly. And other clubs are doing that now, and it's great to see. There's loads of pace in the game, and it's exciting. That's the thing.
What do you expect to happen next season, Cliff?
I think we can move it on. I think we can carry on, because there's a real lot more money about now, and the club aren't afraid to part with the money. The owners are not afraid to part with money. So,
you think you can win it again? Do you think you can retain your Premier League title?
Yeah, I think we can be up there pushing, because players will come in and hopefully buy into this work ethic, and we will have more players and better players. It's going to be difficult because being in Europe's totally new to us, so there's perhaps another 10 games a season we've got to play, so we've got to have a squad of players. But Claudio's experienced in that, so I don't see that being as a major problem. But he's getting the right players in, and I think we can still be there pushing. Yeah.
So where were you last night, Cliff? Where, did you decide to go watch the game with a lot of other people, and how did you feel at half time?
Well, we were in a pub in the city centre. A lot of us went down there, and at half time we thought 2-0. They've got to do it. But being Leicester fans, and we've been 2-0 down a few times, Leicester City, so we know, you can get back into it another 45 minutes. And, we thought when Chelsea went at half-time, he would sort a few things out and get them going, which he did. And, Hazard now is a hero in Leicester as well as Chelsea. So, it's a worldie that one was, weren't it? We were all sat there thinking, time's running out, come on. And he put that in the top of the net.
Enjoy the party on Saturday, Cliff, but not too much, please. It's my team Everton that you're taking on Saturday, I'm afraid we only make up the numbers in a game like that. But many congratulations, you've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Well done, Cliff. Thanks very much for talking to us. Cliff Ginetta there from the Leicester City Supporters Club. He's the chairman, sounding pretty well sort of rested, well happy.
Well, he would be.
The euphoria will last for some time.
I'm
of course,
sure
you haven't had any of that euphoria for quite some time, have you, with Everton?
Well, I've had a lot more of it than you've ever had.
Really? No, I have euphoria every day. It's one of the great things about being me. This is talkSPORT. This afternoon, thanks to Papa John's, you have not one but three chances to win a slice of £300 in cash. Every hour, we'll be asking you million-themed questions. All you need to do is text the correct answer, and you could win £100 cash.
That's absolutely right, £100 cash. Now, today's question is this. Leicester City signed England hero Jamie Vardy for £1 million, from which then non-league side? Was it Fleetwood or was it Barnet?
Text team followed by A for Fleetwood or B for Barnet to 8 to 1089 before 1:45. That's just about 10 minutes from now. Text costs 50p and standard network charges apply. Visit talksport.com for our full terms and conditions.
Jacob's Millions on talkSPORT with Papa John's. Sign up now for your chance to win €1 million at www.amillionfans.com. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply.
This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics in for Hawksby and Jacobs, of course. And with Papa John's, we're giving you the chance to win €1 million. And go to amillionfans.com and sign up for your chance to win. So what did you make of the old Spurs sort of meltdown last night, at the end, particularly?
Well, it was absolutely fascinating game. And I thought, Harry Kane's opener was brilliant because it just showed exactly what he's been up to all season. The Leicester guy came on earlier and said, oh, never mind tiki-taki, Barcelona and all that. But that's exactly the way Spurs were playing last night to get that first goal. Yeah. So it can work in certain circumstances.
Well, they kind of lost the plot somewhere in the second half, didn't they?
Everybody lost the plot. Everybody lost the plot. Spurs suddenly got incredibly aggravated to find out that they weren't going to win the Premier League, and Chelsea got incredibly aggravated because they were not just the deposed champions, but they were deposed halfway down the table champions. I thought it was brilliant to John Terry at the end when he was asked about Claudio Ranieri. He said, nicest man in football. Yeah. I started my life at Chelsea with Claudio Ranieri as my manager, so I'm delighted for all the boys. Great sense of camaraderie. What
about all the punch-ups at the end and all the kind of, what may or may not be retrospective punishments for, gouging, stepping on people's hands, all that kind of thing?
Well, you can't do the gouging bit, can you? That's something which I thought only existed in the so-called gentleman's game, rugby. Yeah. That's where they actually push their fingers into your eyes, they get their boots and they scrape them down your faces. Yeah. What's that called?
Yeah, that's called slicing or something like that.
No, it's called scouring or something, isn't it? Or something like that. But no, it's a wicked crime. That goes on in the quote of the gentleman's game. Right. That's not normally seen in football. What I thought was amazing was that when Mr. Pochettino, the Spurs manager, decided to leap onto the pitch, allegedly to separate two players who were going for each other.
Well, I think he was trying to protect his own player, wasn't he, from getting into trouble?
Well, I don't know what he was trying to do, but he leapt onto the pitch, he tried to start separating him, then he found out that modern young footballers are bigger than stronger than him, and they literally brushed him aside and pushed him out of the way. So he was causing a right infringement.
It was a terrible melee, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is the referee, he was our top referee, Mr. Clattenburg, should have sent him to the stands immediately. A manager can't just run onto the pitch and get involved in the game.
Yeah, but he was trying to be the peacemaker.
Was he?
He was trying to keep them apart.
Was he?
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. You can see
Sorry,
that.
you just contradict yourself by saying, well, hang on, he was trying to protect his own player.
Well, he was trying to
protect... if you're trying to protect your own player, you're not actually bringing players apart.
Protect his own player from himself. He was trying to make sure that he didn't do anything that would get himself a red card.
I think he was trying to make
he was trying to keep them apart.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I mean, you cannot leave your technical area, right? In which case you can be disciplined, but you certainly can't run on the pitch and get yourself involved in a punch-up, or not a punch-up, a fracas that's already going on the pitch.
But at the end,
it's absolutely disgraceful.
At the end, it was. I mean, if you were presumably one of those millions of people watching this amazing game from around the world, you would see the end of that game and you might go, "Oh, it's very passionate," as a lot of football fans would say. But you might also say, "What is going on here?" There's a sort of a general, just sort of 50-man brawl going on going down the tunnel.
Yeah, but fans like to see it.
People were pushing, just hitting around.
Fans like to see that, and there should be a greater tolerance of the
tolerance. So there should be more fighting, is that what you're saying?
Well, there should be a greater tolerance of the physicality of the game.
So who do you think should be punished then after this is looked at by the authorities?
Well, I'm not sure that the eye gouging was an eye gouging. If the eye gouging
he stuck his finger in his eye.
No, he didn't. He put two of his fingers onto his eye. What do you call it? What's this bone here called?
It's a cheekbone.
Cheekbone.
No, it was higher than that. The finger was definitely in the eye socket.
No, it wasn't.
So you're saying that's okay?
No, I'm saying the no fingers entered the eye socket. It was a little drag of his fingernails across the cheekbone.
So you're saying that's a sending off offence during a game of football?
Not in my language.
No?
It's not in my language.
So you think that's okay?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
All right. What about stepping on somebody's hand when they're on the floor? Is that all right?
Well, listen, I can tell you something.
I thought you were a man that had respect for the laws of the game.
I have respect for the laws of the game. I have respect for the laws of the game until the laws of the game become so namby-pamby that we lose the essence of the game, and the essence of the game is physical contact. Really? What I cannot stand to see are referees, so-called clamping down on, dangerous tackles, on, tackles where a player's got his foot off the ground, of tackling from behind and all that. All that is taking the physicality out of the game. I thought it was quite a pleasant return to a right old bruising battle, and I say bruising battle.
And I agree with you.
Bruising battle in the way it's always been. I don't mean
you don't want to see
battle.
people pushing and shoving. I mean, Gus Hiddink, who's actually, as Claudio Ranieri refers to himself as an old man now, he's 64 or whatever. Gus Hiddink is what you might describe as an older gentleman. He's getting pushed around, barracked by players. I mean, it's not right. You can't say that's what you want to see every game.
Well, I think the fans do want to see that every game. Of course they do. I mean, the idea that the game has to be sanitised so that none of us can, recoil in horror and say,
there's a difference
physicality.
There's a difference between sanitised and fighting. No. Fighting on the pitch and after the game is finished is not what I don't think anyone wants to see.
I didn't see any fighting.
Didn't you?
No.
Saw a lot of pushing and shoving.
Yes, exactly.
And that's all right.
Well, I think it's part of the physicality of the emotion of the game.
Right.
Fighting is when... Have you ever seen the Gangs of New York?
The Gangs of New York?
Yes.
What, directed by Martin Scorsese?
Yes, you've seen that.
I have seen
now,
it. I didn't like it.
fighting.
It's one of the few Scorsese movies I didn't like.
That is fighting, right? That is fighting when two groups of men line up and clash with each other head on and brutality.
Well, there's lots of movies about fighting.
Fighting was like the Mods and the Rockers getting together on Brighton seafront in the 1960s and that sort of stuff, okay? Fighting was Richard III at Culloden and all that kind of stuff. No,
Where?
he was not Culloden, actually.
Where?
Culloden.
Culloden. Not Culloden.
Yeah, that was a battle.
What was he doing up there?
He wasn't. I've just corrected
myself.
myself.
No, he couldn't find his horse.
No,
his horse
you
was
idiot.
back down in the Wars of the Roses.
Yes, I know that, you idiot. And but I mean, that's what I'm saying fighting is all about. So we mustn't confuse fighting with physicality.
Right. So you'll admit that you're wrong, presumably, if any sort of penalties are handed out by the authorities looking back retrospectively to what happened.
No, I will not admit that I'm wrong. I will maintain my campaign that in football you cannot eradicate physicality. Once you start trying to do that, you're changing the whole essence of the game. That's a bad thing. It was a nice return to the old, push and shove, and you take that and you have a bit of that last night, which I think football fans really enjoy. Oh, yeah. We all loved that in the 60s. Nobody ended up being crippled out of the game. Nobody ended up being damaged. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure
about that.
60s and 70s or whatever.
I find you might be slightly wrong.
Not trying to age myself or anything like that, but you talk to Chopper Harris and he'll tell you there was a lot of physicality around those days. That's an essential part of the game, to intimidate your opponent.
Rubbish. Absolute nonsense.
No, it's not rubbish.
That is nonsense.
No, you're just going along with the bandwagon, you are. You've got no individual thoughts of your own.
I have individual thoughts. Like, I didn't go along with the bandwagon on Claudio Ranieri. I said that he would be great. You said he'd be rubbish. This is talkSPORT.
You made a trite comment.
talkSPORT. We are the two mics. We've got loads more coming up. Piers Morgan's in next hour as well to tell us how jealous he is of Leicester's win, of course, yesterday. But I suppose he'll be quite happy that Tottenham are no longer up for the cup. But right now, the countdown for UEFA Euro 2016 is on every week. We've been looking at a different team to find out how they're shaping up for this year's tournament with Toolstation. Today, it's the opponents of England and Wales, Slovakia, and who else to help us with all of that? But Andy Brassel. Andy,
very good how are you both?
Very well indeed. Good. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Slovakia, opponents of England and Wales. I mean, we've been focusing a lot on England and Wales last time you were here. How good is Slovakia?
Well, a lot of people have said how easy it's been to qualify for this tournament. Slovakia don't fall into that category because they didn't need a playoff, they didn't need a third place. They finished second in a group including Spain. They finished above Ukraine, who ostensibly have got better players than them. So they're not going to make it easy. I think the general perception in Europe, as we were saying last week, is that England have got a pretty difficult group because they're facing Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale will be facing Slovakia in the first game, which will be interesting. And I'm sure he'll be getting a few notes from his mates because, of course, in the very, very first qualification game, Slovakia beat Spain in Bratislava, having their first defeat in a game that counted in a non-friendly for 8 years.
Okay. And what have they got to as a threat as such? Because, I mean, a lot of people worry more about England's defence than they do about England's ability to score goals. So I mean, who have we got to look out for?
Well, it's about midfield. Marek Hamsik, who plays for Napoli, who had a miserable last season under Rafael Benitez there, has come back to his very best form this season. So that helps. He's got some quality around him, including Miroslav Stoch, who came through the system at Chelsea and has kind of dropped off the radar a bit since, but he's still doing okay in Turkey with Bursaspor. I suppose people will look to get at that defence, which is Martin Skrtel being their captain and leader, and obviously he's dropped from his best.
Yeah, Andy, what do we know about Jan Kozak, who is their coach? Now, I mean, some coaches are going to emerge from this tournament with enhanced reputations and then maybe look towards the Premier League. It's happened before. Is he one of them?
It won't with him because he's simply too old. But he's got great standing.
You say that, but I mean, we've appointed coaches within the British Isles, aged over 60, even over 70 over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So how old is he?
62.
62, that's not old.
That's the spirit.
When you think about it, Harry Redknapp would still take another job.
Well, it's all relative, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah.
I mean, to Porky, 62 is relatively sort of early middle age, isn't it?
No, not at all, no.
Is that what you normally say?
Well, if I was 62, I would still, describe it as early middle age.
Yeah.
When I get there, I'll let you know.
All right, how far away is that?
But I don't think 62 is that old for a coach these days. Think about it. Sir Bobby Robson went on until he was 70. Sir Alex Ferguson into his 70s, OK?
Yes, it's true. I mean, the context of his career is he's done wonders for Slovakia over the last couple of years.
Has he?
They'd not qualified for a major championship until he came and got there. He's got huge respect in Slovak and Czech football as well. So I think it's all about that for him. Really, if they can get past the first round, his status will be even more greatly enhanced.
Okay, and we're hearing from you again same time next week, building up to UEFA Euro 2016 on talkSPORT with Toolstation. Visit toolstation.com and click and collect from over 220 UK branches to get the job done. Now, talking about getting the job done, Andy, Champions League tonight, live on talkSPORT, Bayern Munich against Atletico Madrid. Massive game. They're all massive games at this time of the season, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you think Bayern can do it? I don't.
I think they can. I'm not totally convinced they will. Of course, going to the Allianz and defending a 1-0 lead in Atletico's case is extremely complicated. But then again, it's Atletico. Who else in Europe would you rather back to
that's what I think.
defend a 1-0 lead?
They know how to do that wherever they go, right?
Yeah, and the other thing they've been pointing out in their press conference yesterday when you had Gabi, the captain, and Fernando Torres speaking, is they were saying, well, look, we score in every game. The last time we didn't score in a game was against Malaga, who have one of the best defences in La Liga. That was before Christmas. And they've not lost a game by 2 goals or by a 2-goal margin since February last year. Yeah. So, I mean, any result in the meantime would do them.
They're more aggressive.
Of course.
They have to stay calm, though, don't they? They don't want to get out of 10 men again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they're much more aggressive in the way that we were talking about Chelsea and Spurs last night. They show that aggression all the time, don't they?
Well, not quite that level of aggression.
I bet they would if necessary.
But I think your point, Mike, is absolutely right about not going over the top. Yeah. In that Barcelona away leg, the first leg of the quarter-final, they got a little bit overexcited. Fernando Torres got a little bit overexcited. Yeah. And that's what ultimately led to them losing the game. It is about keeping 11 on the pitch. And I don't think, even though you would generally want to press high against Bayern, that they want to go with a 4-3-3 and do that again. When they play a narrow 4-4-2, and when they sit, I think, when the onus is on Bayern, that really helps them. They're quite happy to go into it and say, yeah, we'll have 20% possession, we'll have 25% possession, and that'll be fine. And Bayern know that is, possession is not connected with winning games as well. Of course, when they hammered Barcelona 4-0 in the semi-final second leg back in 2013 on the way to the last treble, which of course they're in for again. They're in the German Cup final against Dortmund. They had, I think, less than 30% of the ball against Barcelona, and they tore them to shreds.
Yeah, and that seems to be the way forward, doesn't it, in some European context, and also
the
with
right
Leicester,
to counter.
And that's what Leicester have done all season. But
Exactly.
the problem is that back then they had Heynckes, now they've got Pep Guardiola, who is a possession man, really, isn't he? I mean, he's not really that kind of coach.
That is true, but it has to be said at the same time. They know they're going to have a lot of the ball, and they know they'll have to find other solutions. He knows Simeone very well, even though they've only played each other twice as coaches. So it's something you could see becoming a major rivalry in European football over the next couple of years, because you expect Atletico will get in the latter stages of the Champions League again. You expect Manchester City will again going forward next season. So it could be an interesting little precursor to that, but it's still quite a nascent rivalry in coaching.
How is Pep Guardiola regarding this as a marker towards the way the Manchester City fans are going to greet him if he wins or fails tonight?
I'm not convinced he is, because so much of his legacy...
Well, he should be, shouldn't he? I mean, he should be wanting to go there as a champion of Europe, shouldn't he?
Yeah, but I think he wants to win that for winning it, not for what it means to Manchester City. I think that's a different matter. And a lot of people do regard his career at Bayern as perhaps being a little failure,
Average.
or at least a disappointment if he doesn't win the Champions League, because that's the sort of standards are set. But I think you have to look wider than that, and you think how they've come on in football terms, that there's a Bayern brand of football, for want of a less ugly word, which there wasn't before, and that was the main reason he was brought in, not necessarily for European Cup success, because they had that already.
Sure. Give me a quick prediction for who's going to be in the final.
I go Atletico Real Madrid.
Really?
Again.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Andy, thank you very much indeed. We'll be talking to you again very, very soon. Andy Bressel there, European football expert, live tonight, of course, on talkSPORT. It is the Champions League, and it is the return of Atletico Madrid to Bayern Munich. We'll see who gets through. That's live from 7 o'clock tonight. Coming up, we got loads more, including Piers Morgan in the next hour. talkSPORT, we are the two mics. We are celebrating, of course, Leicester City's new reign as champions of the Premier League. Unfortunately for Porky Parry, they're going to be picking up the cup at the Everton game at the weekend, which sadly he's not able to attend because he's going to be on his way to Cardiff for our live two-man show down there on Saturday night. So if you want to pour any more ordure over him, just turn up at the tram shed and start hurling abuse at him. Now, a man that has probably heard you hurling abuse at more people than you would care to mention
very much
is Piers Morgan, a guy that you've often said you taught him everything he knew, which obviously nobody really believes. I worked for him, and he taught me one or two things, I have to say.
Yeah.
Mr. Piers Morgan,
seem to work
a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chad. How are you?
Very well indeed. Very well indeed.
Absolutely splendid, Piers. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Yeah, well...
What a gentleman.
I don't want another Jay Rayner situation on my hands.
No, definitely not.
You force me to quit in disgust at the audacity of your questioning.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Do you mind if we ask you something about broadcasting on newspapers? Oh, no.
No, well, I mean, unfortunately...
I listened to it. I've dealt with him before. Extremely thin-skinned, very low sense of humour valves, and very high pomposity levels. Very entertaining.
Yeah, unfortunately for him as well, he then got slaughtered for about 12 hours after he appeared on the show by everybody who'd also heard it. Thought he was a complete and utter idiot. But there we are, man. But you're used to getting a fair bit of abuse on Twitter, and not least when you put out your combined Arsenal-Leicester 11 a few hours ago, which didn't include very many Arsenal players.
No, I think I managed to find room for 3, and that was a struggle. I got Cech in, although it could have been Schmeichel. I got Bellerin in, and I got Ozil in, but the rest of them were all Leicester players. And I did it because it sort of said it all to me. You know, if you've got Arsenal with the hundreds of millions of pounds that we've spent in our fancy, massive stadium generating millions and millions a week, and the highest ticket prices in world football, and one of the highest paid managers in world football, if I can only get 3 of our team into a combined Arsenal-Leicester team, what does that tell you about every excuse that Arsene Wenger's had for 10 years about not competing with the big, rich, powerful teams?
Well, what does it tell you, indeed? But also, as some people said to you, you didn't include a manager's choice in there. Presumably you'd rather have Ranieri than Wenger at this point, would you?
Oh, I'd say Ranieri tomorrow, because Ranieri has shown that actually it's not just about money, although Wenger doesn't compete at the top end with the big boys or at the bottom end with the Leicesters, who did it through heart, desire and commitment, and a manager who played unbelievably intense pressing football the entire season in a fairly conventional 4-4-2 manner. What I really took exception to with Wenger and Arsenal this year is just the lack of heart, the lack of when the going got tough, we as normal just got going in the wrong direction. Our big striker, our Jamie Vardy, a guy who wasn't playing non-league football 3 years ago, Olivier Giroud, has not scored in 15 consecutive Premier League matches at the business end of the season. Yeah, now, this is the man that Wenger entrusted to win us the league when even Thierry Henry said he'll never win the league. Well, he's not going to win us the league. Arsene Wenger is not going to win us league again. And I say, as I said on this network many times, to those Arsenal fans who cheered Wenger's name last weekend and probably got him another contract, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Do you know what, Piers? I think it's going to get harder now as well, because I think what Leicester have done, apart from, a magnificent individual season, they've actually broken the mould now of the top four lockout to everybody else. It used to be the top four. They were recognised.
Is that your phrase of the day, broken the mould? We've used that already.
We know who they were. We still know who they are. But, I mean, with the football playing field monetarily now being levelled and everybody's getting £100 million a season, with the fact that teams now are no longer beaten before they go onto the pitch when one of the big four are there, because Leicester have proved that reputations count for nothing, it's going to get even harder for the big four.
Well, listen, totally. I think that I put a tweet out earlier. The last time Arsenal won the league, I was still editor of the Daily Mirror. That is how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And that puts it
Those were the
into
days.
time perspective. Well, actually, I was fired 17 days later, but I just dropped in under the radar. Yeah, but I think that's right, Porky. I think the thing is that you're going to have Pochettino, who's clearly a brilliant manager at Spurs with a great team. I hate to say it, but they are. He'll be adding some real firepower to them. You're going to have Conte at Chelsea. If they replicate what they showed in the second half yesterday and they bring his nous and his new signings in, they're going to be strong. Manchester United, whether it's Van Gaal, the end of his project, or they bring in Mourinho, they're going to be buying big and strong again. Manchester City with the best coach of world football, Guardiola, and so on and so on. You add in West Ham, you add in other teams bubbling under just around sort of 6-7. You look at Arsenal and you think, what is it about Wenger or Arsenal based on this season that is going to change? Why should we be in the top 5 next season? I mean, seriously, what is it that I'm missing?
Well, you say that, Piers, but I mean, Arsenal, they're only 3 points now behind Tottenham, and Tottenham, if they continue as they did last night, may completely spiral off the end of the cliff before the end of the season. I mean, Arsenal could still come second, couldn't they?
Well, so what? I mean, do you think Bill Shankly or Alex Ferguson or Jose Mourinho ever sat there going, I do hope we come second?
But surely finishing above Tottenham means something to you, doesn't it?
We've come third or fourth for the last 10 years in the Premier League, right? Tottenham have never beaten us in the Premier League. This may be the year. As you say, it's in doubt, but I suspect they will. Leicester, though, is the story, isn't it? Leicester are going to beat us by at least 12, 13 points, and they've won the league. And I simply say to those Arsenal fans who come on here and they say, we can't change, we mustn't change, we owe it to Wenger. We don't owe Wenger anything. He's been raking in £8 million a year now for a very long time to not come first or second in the league. And I say it's time to look at somebody fresh, someone that can do to us what Klopp is doing at Liverpool, what Pochettino's doing at Spurs.
I don't see
what Simeone's doing. What is everyone scared of? Why is Wenger given this extraordinary free pass?
Well, I don't see how anybody could disagree with you now. I mean, I've had conversations with you on Twitter about this before, and I've said, you've been disloyal to Wenger for all he's done to the club. But quite frankly, now, it's like looking down a runway at an airport. You can't see any end to it. You see what I mean? It's not getting any better.
He won't quit, and Stan Kroenke, our billionaire. Remember, we have a billionaire owner. So when he talked about not being able to compete with these billionaire-run clubs, we've been one. Stan Kroenke is worth $10 billion.
Ashmarov's worth more, isn't he?
Yeah, he just doesn't care. And my point about this is, like you say, where does it end? Wenger, I know for a fact, has a new 3-year contract on his desk, right? He's, as he normally does, trying to strategically play the fans and the media to a point where he can legitimately sign that new £25 million contract. And on Saturday, or last weekend, we had a chance, the fans had a chance to basically make their view known that it was time for change. And it turned into a massive dance squib. Yes, we had 10,000 who stayed away. Yes, a few thousand did put their placards up. It wasn't particularly well organised. It didn't play out very particularly well. What Wenger immediately did was he turned this into a massive, I was so surprised, I'm so thrilled, 80% of the fans are with me, and I know what this means. Mm-hmm. This means he is going to sign a new contract, and that means Arsenal will go another 3 years without winning the league, without winning the Champions League. And for those fans, they got one more game against Aston Villa at home. That's it. And if they continue to chant Wenger's name, they will get him for 3 more years. And if that's what they want, then get off your feet and chant one Arsene Wenger, because that is what will be the consequence.
What do you think they should do then? How can they make their voices heard?
I think the only way you can make your voices heard, the most telling moment for me was when we played the other night and 10,000 people stayed away and it was very obvious and they voted with their feet. I hated to see it. I don't like seeing Wenger disrespected. I've nothing against him personally. He's a very erudite, intelligent man who did a great deal for this club in his first 8 years. But after 12 years of Premier League not coming in the top 2, after 6 consecutive years of being kicked out of the Champions League in the last 16 stage, there's got to be a moment when this is over and when we try somebody fresh. And what really worries me now is Wenger, who's a very smart guy, is playing the media exactly like he normally does. He's already talking about another war chest for next season. You know, he's already talking about we pick up papers and we're in for Lewandowski, we're in for this, we're in for that. We should have had Luis Suarez, but we made a stupid, ignorant bid of £40 million and we lost him. Had we had Suarez, we might have won 2 league titles in the last 3 years. Wenger doesn't have that killing instinct anymore. And so we are where we are. You know, I don't know how it ends. I don't know where it ends. But
it doesn't end, though, does it? I mean, that's the point.
Wenger won't go anyway.
Well,
he's on $8 million a year.
But also, as you say,
for $8 million a year, you'd be there till you were 90.
But that's the point. I mean, Porky's run a few unsuccessful campaigns in his time. I mean, this must count as one of the more unsuccessful campaigns you've ever run, Piers, because you've been doing it for years.
I tend to lose all my campaigns. So I fought, as you know, for the Mirror, fought against the Iraq War. We lost that. Kevin Peterson and the England team, I lost that. I tried to get Manchester United back in the FA Cup when they pulled out and lost that, and ever since the FA Cup's been...
Yeah, but if you win these campaigns, you're out of business, mate. You've got to keep, banging the drum and saying that everybody else is out of step except you.
Yeah, another one I'd had, Guns in America and Arsene Wenger. Now, I would argue all those campaigns were right. I just happened to lose them. This is the last chance I have to get one where people see common sense. I mean, do Arsenal fans really want 3-4 more years of Arsene Wenger? Yes or no?
What did you make, Piers, of his recent proclamation, which none of us had ever heard before, that he was indebted to sign a 5-year contract with the club as part of the deal to build a new stadium? I didn't know about that.
It told me what I suspected for years, that the banks are running Arsenal. They dictate, they decide who our manager is. And of course the banks like Arsene Wenger. He generates cash. We've got £200 million sitting in the bank. Had we spent that on a world-class striker, either last summer when we didn't buy a single outfield player, or have we bought 2 other great defenders, then we may not have come 3rd or 4th as we will do yet again. Wenger had the money. He had no more excuses. But frankly, even without that money, he had a squad that was 5-6 times more expensive than Leicester, perhaps more, and he's not able to generate the kind of passion, the desire that we saw, which Ranieri got out of those Leicester boys. And, I mean, look, let's park Arsenal to one side for 1 minute. I don't think it ends until Wenger falls on his sword. He may never fall on his sword. You and I might be talking about this in 10 years' time. I've no idea. But Leicester to me is the great story of modern football, of any football, of sport in history, because what it showed is that you can beat anybody in a David Goliath way if you just have enough drive and determination, and you have enough leadership, and you have a team spirit like we saw in the Vardy Mansion video late last night when those guys went crackers together. That's how you win things.
Do you think they'll be in the top 4 next year?
I think they've got a very good chance because we get a huge injection of cash. I can't see any of the Leicester boys really moving unless, Barcelona come in big for Mahrez you could see him being tempted, something like that. But if you're Vardy, you're 30, you just signed a new contract, you're an absolute god in Leicester. Why would you move? So I think they're going to keep their key players, and they can add, hopefully, for them, 2 or 3 really world-class players with the new money that's coming in. And Leicester should then, I think, be comfortably top 4 contenders. I think West Ham will be up there with the new stadium, and based on a very good new manager and a good team spirit and very good performances this season. Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, the guy that brought to Arsenal, I think are going to be superb. I think Conte's, from what I hear, a terrific manager. Guardiola, of course, they're going to be great at Man City. So, again, I come back to what I said at the start of this. Where are Arsenal going to finish next season if Wenger doesn't go?
And who's got the ambition?
Finishing 6th or 7th. I don't think we don't have any ambition.
Somebody surely, Piers, the size of the club that you've got. I mean, you can tell about the frustration at Manchester United now that they're a slumbering giant and they're slipping down the ranks and all that. But I don't see that behind the scenes at Arsenal. Who has the ambition to want that Premier League trophy back in their boardroom so they can boast to the rest of the Premier League, we are the champions?
What we need is an Abramovich, a ruthless boss, a ruthless owner who actually comes to the games, who actually cares, who goes in the dressing room, who goes to the training ground, a man who fired Jose Mourinho, who he loved, 7 months after he won the Premier League because he believed he'd lost the dressing room. That is what I want to see in the people that run Arsenal. Ruthlessness.
Sure.
Now look at Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson won 5 more league titles since Arsene Wenger last won one, and Ferguson's been retired 3 years. Right now, Man United had American owners, they had debt, they had a stadium redevelopment, etc., etc. All these excuses that Wenger uses, to my mind, have now been exposed, both by the richer clubs who've outperformed us and by clubs like Leicester, who've shown you don't actually need the money if you have great coaching and great drive and great team spirit. We don't have any of these things.
Now, we're out of time, unfortunately, Piers, but we're going to see you on TV in a show called Killer Women, which I was rather disappointed to find out was about serial killers. Thought it might have been about something else.
It's basically where I go to Texas and Florida into maximum security prisons, and I interview the most dangerous women in America, people who've done unspeakable crimes. It's very lurid. It's very compelling. It's a kind of Making a Murderer, the Netflix series, which gripped everybody. It has that kind of twists and turns to each story where you're not quite sure as a viewer where you think guilt or motivation lies. And at the end of it, I think you're given a very fascinating insight into what makes women kill in a premeditated way. It's very unusual. Very few women in the world actually plan and carefully execute horrific murders. So I think it'd be a compelling series. It starts next Wednesday night, week on Wednesday at 9 p.m. ITV, runs for 2 weeks, and tune in.
Great stuff.
Certainly will.
Piers, thanks very much.
Thank
Great
you
to
very
talk to you again. See you soon. Piers Morgan for ITV. He's got his serial killer show coming out. Coming up
Have
next.
you read a bit about it?
I have read a bit about it, yeah. I know a bit about high security prisons in America. I'll tell you about that in a little while. You weren't kept in one, of course. This is talkSPORT.
Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City. Leicester used to be a tip, but now he's gone and won them the Premiership. Next year Leicester play at Inter Milan. They won't believe the manager's the Tinker Man. Oh, Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City.
That was Porky's earlier...
That's had a fantastic response.
Well, it's your earlier tribute. Fantastic response to people pointing out the mistakes in it, i.e. Premiership, which nobody calls it anymore. And, of course, Inter Milan, who will not be playing in the Champions League next year because
doesn't matter, it's iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's too many mistakes in it.
I'm talking about the last 20 years. I'm talking about this season, next season.
Fortunately, you're not the only one that's been taking to song to
somebody
pay
else
tribute
tried it,
to
have they?
Claudio Ranieri. Because Leicester Party's still going on. It's been going on since last night.
That really
It'll
worried
go
me
on
when I saw
for
that
the
stuff
rest.
in Jamie Vardy's house.
Did it? Why?
Well, do you know what my immediate reaction was?
What?
I wonder if all those people have taken their shoes off in his house, because I bet he's got very expensive carpet.
You see,
seriously.
that's typical of you.
No, it's not. It's
That's
not.
typical of you.
I thought, God, they're all jumping over his furniture, they're on his carpet and all
Yeah,
that.
but he
They're
doesn't
taking
care.
their shoes off.
Just won the Premier League.
Well, I would care.
Yeah,
I would care if people
Well,
trashing
that's
my
'cause
house.
you're a miserable, sad, lonely old git.
Oh, really?
I
Is that
suppose,
right?
For want of a better word. Have a listen to this and tell me it's not better than yours.
Ranieri is taking us to Europe, to Europe, to Europe, and that's the way we like it, we like it, we like it. In fact, we really love it, we love it, we love it. Oh.
Isn't that nice?
Sorry, is that it?
That's a choir. It's a sort of a cappella version
repetitive
without any backup
drivel.
music. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong in it.
No, I'm sorry.
There's no facts which are incorrect.
We love him, we love him, we love him, we love Ranieri. How
Well, it's better than yours.
Of drivel. No, it's not. Mine's better.
Also sung with
Why
passion.
do you put it to the vote?
Sung with passion.
Why do you put it to the
I
vote?
may put it to the vote,
Yeah.
but it would be an absolute and utter kind of landslide
No, it wouldn't.
against you.
No, it wouldn't.
Because you now have jumped on the bandwagon, pretending that you like Claudio
Excuse
Ranieri,
me,
making out that you think he's a great man.
My song came out first.
No, it didn't.
My
actually.
song came out first.
Well, you don't get any points for that.
Well, I'm sorry, but I wrote it, scripted it myself, I did all the musical direction. I produced it, and they've
you
probably
produced
got some.
it.
They've probably
So
got
you're
some,
not even giving any credit now to the guys behind the glass.
Well, they produced it with me.
They produced
with
it,
me.
yes.
With me. You produced it
Well,
together.
let's
Remember
have a listen to something else that you might have forgotten about already.
Okay. I think Leicester will be one of the relegated clubs this season. I think they really flirted with danger last season, but I think the difference that kept them up was Nigel Pearson.
Yeah.
But Mr. Ranieri, I'm afraid I think he's all over the shop.
I actually think Leicester are going to be okay with Ranieri. I think he's
Okay.
rather a clever guy. Mm-hmm. So, what do you make of that? There's the evidence that you asked for
I
earlier.
didn't hear you say you think they were going to win the Premier League.
I never said they were going to win the Premier
well,
League.
then
But
what are you
I did
boasting
say,
about?
what I did say was that Claudio Ranieri was a very clever guy,
Yes.
and that they would actually do well this season with him at the helm.
Yeah,
Whereas you said, did you not,
Yeah.
that they would be relegated?
You just make these spurious comments. In
Did you, or did you not say they'd be relegated?
In the 5,000 to 1 hope that, something might happen.
Let's have another listen to what you said.
How many times do you want to play it out?
I want to hear what you said.
I think Leicester will be one of the relegated clubs this season. I think they really flirted with danger last season, but I think the difference that kept them up was Nigel Pearson.
Yeah.
But Mr. Ranieri, I'm afraid I think he's all over the shop.
I actually think Leicester are going to be okay with Ranieri. I think he's
Okay.
rather a clever guy. You see, my normal understated way of saying, basically,
Yes.
I think they're going to do
Yes.
very well.
Well,
so just admit you were wrong, and then we can, get on with the show.
My assessment was not spot on. That I agree.
Wrong.
But people like Henry Winter, who is the
Why are you changing the subject?
editor
It's
of
not about Henry
football, or chief
Winter.
soccer writer at the Times,
Soccer.
made exactly chief football writer, if you like, made exactly the same prediction because it's a miracle. It is a miracle when you think about it.
It's not a miracle. They played the best football. Although
I know.
they've won the Premier League with the least number of points
Yep.
of any team, funnily enough. So what does
Yes.
that tell you about the rest? We'll talk more about Leicester, though, coming up, because Jim Smallman's here. He's a massive Leicester fan. He's a comedian. He's a friend of the show. This is talkSPORT.
Excellent day.
Come on, Leicester boys, make some crazy noise. Go wild, wild, wild. Go wild, wild, wild. Come on, Leicester boys.
There's another version of a song that's better than yours,
Well,
Porky.
hang on. That's a gash version of a Slade song. Now, I put my lyrics to Jesus Christ Superstar, one of the greatest songs ever
So
written,
how was yours
by
different?
a Lord of the Realm. Well, mine was better.
Why was it better?
Mine was better.
Well, I think we've got a man here that can judge whether
Hey,
yours
just before
was
we
better.
do that, I'm glad
What?
that we had Piers Morgan on just now on our show, because on his TV show this morning, right, there's a picture of him holding a Leicester mug.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like he's defected. He actually has told us and confirmed he's sticking with Arsenal, but, he's even saying
Well,
to
shame we didn't
himself...
see that before
he's
he
tempted.
actually came on instead of after.
Well, I've seen it now because somebody sent me a picture. No, it's not. It's not a waste of time. It is
Anyway,
a
be quiet
completely
because we've
relevant
got a
fact.
proper Leicester fan here, Jim Smallman. Jim, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, chaps. It's
Welcome.
nice. It's nice hearing you both argue in the afternoon rather than at night when I'm driving home from gigs.
Yes.
That's very kind of you. Thank
There
you
you
very
go.
much indeed.
Yeah.
But it's not so much an argument as me putting him straight on
Yeah.
the rudimentary
You probably would have heard that clip from earlier in the year, in fact, early last year, when Porky said that he thought Leicester were going to be amongst one of the teams relegated this season. He's trying to run away
so
from it
did
at 100
everybody
miles
else.
an hour. They never said relegated, they just said Ranieri wouldn't be very good.
Well, you see my quote in the national newspaper this morning. I said it was a rum appointment. I said that the last time I saw a team that was controlled by Mr. Ranieri was when he was Chelsea manager in Monaco, when he became the Tinkerman that night. Made 5 changes in the second half. But anyway...
That
great
doesn't
to have
matter,
you.
though, does it?
Great to have you in the studio
That
here,
doesn't
Jim.
matter. Jim, you've been a Leicester fan for all your life, I dare say, have you?
Indeed, yes. I'm nearly 38 next week. I've been a
Okay.
City fan all my life.
And, I mean, incredible, really, when you think about it. I mean, there were those who thought that, Tottenham might get a win. I mean, it looked like they would for 45 minutes last night, certainly. And then suddenly, as it became... Well, when that Hazard goal went in, presumably you just knew that somehow the luck was with you.
Yeah, and it's felt a bit like that all season. In that if you're a Leicester supporter, everything's felt a bit weird. And even when Spurs were 2-0 up, there was a part of me that thought, Chelsea will probably get something out of this because the whole season's been so utterly strange. I've just realised from what I've been sat outside reading one of the papers that 7 years ago, yesterday. We were playing Crewe in League One, a game I was at. Because of comedy now, I can't go to as many games as I used to be able to go to. And I think that was probably the last season I went to every game. So me and my dad would have been watching us play Crewe 7 years ago yesterday. And then weirdly, I got a train from Crewe today to come and talk about Leicester winning the Premier League.
Really?
Which is utterly bizarre. And while I was walking through London,
karma.
I walked through Covent Garden, saw a lad who was wearing a coat, and I could just see peeking out the top of his jacket a few seasons old Leicester shirt. And I just walked up to him and hugged him. He hugged me back, but I suspect he probably thought it was a bit strange.
You get in trouble for that sort of behaviour.
I was going to say, when you've been arrested.
But that's the sort of thing that Leicester winning the league will do, isn't it? Because you see people randomly hugging each other, and people who perhaps are football fans of other clubs just really sort of revelling in it and loving it.
That's the thing, is nearly everyone who works in stand-up comedy knows I'm the only, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only professional stand-up comic who's a Leicester supporter. Yeah. So yesterday, when it happened...
who's admitted it so far.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
There may be others who now admit to it. But I had so many text messages and tweets and messages on Facebook from other comics who were just pleased for me, even ones who support Spurs and Arsenal and other teams that were our title contenders. It's very bizarre. Are you
going to give a bit of a concert to celebrate what they've done? Because I mean, you'll get Gary Lineker there, you'll get all the big names.
Well, Kasabian did a big show there, I think.
They are indeed. They're doing two because they sold the first one out in about 6 minutes.
Is that right?
And I've decided we have a comedy festival in Leicester in February. I don't live in Leicester anymore. I live in North Wales.
Sure,
but. I've already, because I've been writing a blog about how weird it is and how surreal the whole season's been. So I've already got a load of material about being a Leicester supporter that I've started doing on stage. So I thought, I can do an hour-long show. So I've decided that's what I'm going to do, whether I do it in February in the Comedy Festival in Leicester or if I do it before.
But of course, winning isn't funny, though, is it? I mean, losing's funnier.
I think if we were winning every single year, there would be very little humour to make out of it. Yeah. I think the fact that it is... if you're a Leicester fan, you've essentially lived through our version of Fever Pitch.
I mean, it's the contrast between the two, isn't it?
Yeah,
the contrast between the two is where the real humour comes, because you...
I mean, I find it hilarious, for example, that Paul's an Everton fan, because every week they give me something to make fun of, whereas if you're a Leicester fan...
But he doesn't support anybody, Jim. The thing is...
I'm a lover of football.
The thing between you and I, Jim, you've been a committed Leicester fan all your life. Yes. I've supported Everton every day of my life.
Absolutely.
This rotund chap on my left here, he doesn't support anybody. He once tried to pretend to support Brentford when I got him a free ticket at the Brentford-Everton League Cup tie.
No, I supported Brentford because a relative of mine used to play for them, and my father took me to my first football match there, and you mock my father, who's now dead, in a disgraceful way. No. I am a Brentford. I have a soft spot for Brentford, as I've always said.
Utter rubbish. Listen, Joe, I want to ask you a question, please. Veering off football a bit. You've got beautifully tattooed arms.
Indeed, yes.
Where's the Leicester crest?
I don't. I have a fox.
That's a dangerous question.
On the ditch of one of my elbows.
Oh no, that is very impressive.
I have my father, who was the first person to take me to watch Leicester when I was a kid. I know I had a season ticket with for years and years and years. Didn't miss a game for probably about 15, 16 years. My shin is not tattooed at the minute, and I said to him maybe about 3 months ago, I tell you what, if we win the league, I'll get a commemorative tattoo, knowing as well that Wes Morgan, our captain, owns a tattoo studio in Leicester, which makes it even cooler. So I have designed it. Came up with the design with my wife the other day. I'm going to have the Premier League trophy tattooed on my shin with two bits of writing around it. One is going to be the 5,000 to 1 odds that we had at the start of the season, and the other thing is based on a conversation me and my dad had, which both of us said we would never do this in our lifetime. So I'm going to have never in my lifetime.
We've got a picture of this we can tweet out this afternoon.
I haven't got a design of it yet. I'll scroll it.
Sounds like a classic design.
It's a fascinating... What? Will you ask me another question?
Yeah. Did you know that Nick Ferrari is a Leicester shareholder?
Funnily enough, I saw him tweeting out today that he's been a Leicester fan all his life, which surprised me. I didn't know he was from that part of the world.
It's his second generation or something. It's like his great-grandfather or something, had an estate in Leicester at one time. So he became a shareholder. Only thing I was going to say is, and Nick's an old friend and has been for years, if you do a show and Nick's in the audience, make sure you've got plenty of chairs, Is that a bit harsh?
I think that is a bit harsh, Porky, of course, can't stop opening his mouth and making enemies every time he does it. But, I mean, it must be quite weird. I mean, you say you don't live in Leicester anymore, but, I mean, if you now live in Leicester, Leicester is kind of at the epicentre for now anyway of everybody in the world. I mean, the New York Times was doing stuff on it. People from Japan have come over to write about it. Of course, we've seen people from Thailand coming because of the connections with the owners and all that. But I mean, it literally is the one sporting story that has kind of united the world. It's extraordinary.
It is crazy. It's even nicer that Mark Selby won last night as well. A man who has exactly the same voice as me. If you ever heard his interview. Although
he did do his best to sort of upset everybody the previous night by playing safe instead of going for the win. And everyone was saying how unlike Leicester City he was because he didn't want to actually do it.
He also had the longest queue in history.
Did he?
How about that? The longest queue, he had 2 extensions on his queue.
I thought the longest queue in history was the last time you did a book signing for Rooney Tunes.
Well, it was actually. Yeah, there were a lot of people outside there. But what I'm saying is, he was making history himself whilst Leicester City were. So there's a lot to talk about in the city of Leicester these days.
I think it's quite nice in that my dad, who still lives in Leicester, we were chatting last night. He watched the game with one of my nephews, so his grandson. And then he took his grandson home, and he rang me up and said, "I've tried getting into Leicester for the celebrations. It's gridlock. This is at 11:30 at night."
Right.
And I've got friends who aren't football fans who live in the middle of Leicester who are like, "Hey, I'm really pleased for you, but can you please stop tooting your horns?"
What's it going to be like?
Absolutely not.
No, of course not. What's it going to be like on Saturday?
It's going to be. That's because a lot of people are like, it'd be nice if you won it under your own steam on Saturday. But I actually like the fact that it was won.
Of course,
it was won before then, because it now means everyone can relax and it can be a party leading up to it. And we can definitely be given the trophy on Saturday. Everton fans have been really, really sweet about it. A lot of them have been offering their tickets to Leicester fans so they don't get ripped off, which is genuinely really. I live near a lot of Everton fans from where I live, so they've all been really, really super nice about it.
Of course they would. The only fans who show any resentment towards you be those who haven't enjoyed that wonderful experience, the euphoria of being the best. You know what I mean? I can still remember that in my lifetime. Nottingham Forest fans around you can remember that. Derby fans can remember that. They'll all respect you for what you've done. It's the fans from teams like maybe Newcastle United who believe, we are a massive club, why haven't we done it, who feel just a sense of desolation.
I think what's interesting, a friend of mine, Tony Cowards, is a great comedian who is an Ipswich Town fan.
Right.
He messaged me this morning and said, "Thank you for doing it for the fans of the 85 or so teams who can never do this."
Yeah.
Because I think that's why we've had so much
Ipswich
goodwill.
did. Ipswich had a similar story when Sir Alf Ramsey took over there. They were in the second division. He took them up in the first season.
1962, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. They won the first division, and actually, one of our great colleagues here, Alan Brazil, won the UEFA Cup as it was then with Ipswich Town. So they can do it.
The other thing about Leicester is, and nobody's really talked too much about this in recent sort of days and weeks, is that it wasn't that long ago when they were nearly out of business altogether.
Oh yeah, I remember those days when
Filbert Street and all that.
Well, I remember the last game at Filbert Street and moving to the new stadium and then having quite a lot of financial problems. And then obviously being in League One 7 years ago was, for a lot of us, bizarrely, that season was fantastic because we weren't expected to bounce straight back. A lot of teams didn't when they went down to League One. We got to go to loads of different clubs that we'd not been to, had a great experience and came straight back up. But at the time when we went down to League One, you're like, was this it? Because we're not a big team. We're a medium-sized team. For us to go down to League One was a disaster at the time, but we've bounced back, and the recent years...
Well, many others haven't, that's the thing, isn't it?
Sure. Absolutely.
And that did work. And one of the great things about Ranieri, and why you suspect that he will stay around, and I mean, he apparently negotiated a £100,000 bonus for every place Leicester finished above 18th, in addition to £5 million for winning the actual Premier League.
The man's a genius, because can you imagine our wonderful owners just having a meeting with him going, what do you want in your contract? Like, I want a £5 million bonus if we win the league, and imagine them going, all right,
no problem.
Here you go.
Well, that's the other thing.
Let's make it 10.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? None of the players actually are negotiating a bonus for the Champions League next season either. But I mean, I presume they'll all be looked after.
I would imagine, based on the fact that no one wants to ruin the team spirit there. And it's the same reason we didn't go out and buy loads of players in January, is because it's a good unit of players that get on. They've all got the right sort of attitude. And I would imagine we might lose one player, but I hope we don't. And anyone who does come in's got to have that same sort of attitude. We've not got people who are on loads and loads of money. Vardy's on the most, I think, 80 grand a week. So
can't imagine
all
the Premier
clubs,
League champions can be a selling club, can you? I mean, just can't imagine it. Why would they?
I wouldn't imagine they would.
I mean, they'll stay for at least one more season just in case the bubble bursts. But surely Jamie Vardy must be so proud of having come from where he came from to reaching the pinnacle now with Leicester. He ain't going to go anywhere, I wouldn't have thought.
I also think that the players that are often talked about as potentially losing, so Kante and Mahrez, both of them, we bought them from small teams in France and made their careers in England. So hopefully we'll get another year out of them. I think Mahrez will stay. Kante might be a little bit more dodgy because he's actually got a release clause. But it's just, even if some of those, even in the case of Kante, who's been wonderful, we have him for one season. If it's the one season where we win the league, good luck to him.
Just very briefly, Drew, I'm sorry, I know time is short. How much did Nigel Pearson have to do with what's happened this season?
Well, loads, because he's the guy. We wouldn't be in the Premier League without Nigel Pearson. I think this season is built on the stability that he instilled in the club by getting us promoted, by being our manager twice, getting us. He was also the manager who got us promoted from League One as well. So we have to be grateful towards Nigel Pearson, but also you really can't take away from what Claudio Ranieri's done in making those players work so hard for each other.
Of course not.
And what did you say would happen to them last season?
I didn't say anything. I
said they'd go down.
No, I was quoted in a newspaper this morning as saying it's a weird appointment because, Claudio has a great record in the Premier League. It's simple as that.
You said they'd be relegated. We heard the audio. We'll play it again later if you've forgotten. This is talkSPORT. This is the two mics in for Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT with Papa Johns, who are giving you the chance to win €1 million. Go to amillionfans.com and sign up for your chance to win. That was a very nice conversation we had just there with Jim Small.
I thought Jim was a lovely guy, and thanks very much for coming in. We should have mentioned to our audience, because certainly we appreciate the sort of thing he does, jimsmallman.com. That's his website, and delighted to say that if you're in the Manchester area or you're in Manchester this week, get along to the Frog and Bucket, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, where Jim is doing his fantastic stand-up routine.
Sounds like the sort of place you'd like to hang out, the Frog and Bucket.
The Frog and Bucket. Well, I've no objection to places like the Dog and Duck, the Frog and Bucket, one of my favourite
Fox and
pubs.
Firkin.
Fox and Firkin, don't mind that.
You don't see so many of those around anymore. There's something in Firkin.
Well,
Does that mean
that was a chain that closed down.
Did they shut down? Is that
the Slug and Lettuce still going?
Yeah, I think so.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure. I haven't seen one of them around for a while.
There's one in Canary Wharf, I think, isn't there?
One in Canary Wharf, is there? Yeah. No, I don't mind those at all. I love traditional names for pubs. And the thing is, these days, I mean, what's that place in that little town just outside Cheltenham where we go? And the name of the
little town just outside Cheltenham.
Yeah. And
we don't go to the little town outside Cheltenham. We go to Cheltenham.
I have been there.
Somebody else you go there with.
Yeah, and the main place there is like a 5-star hotel. It's called something like the Horse and Groom or something like that.
No, I know what you mean. I think you've got it completely wrong. Now, it's Ask Porky coming up in a little while, so if you haven't sent in a question yet, you can find our Facebook page and
Change your life
post
for you.
one on there. You can also text in to 81089. You can tweet in, of course, as well at the two mics, and we will sort you out a little bit later on.
Sure.
Now, the other thing that you haven't even asked me about,
Yes.
so desperate have you been to jump onto the Claudio Ranieri bandwagon and make out that you've been preparing
Winners
all
and
season
losers.
for Leicester to win the Premier League, or the Premiership title, as you called it.
Yes.
Winners and losers. Don't you want to know the score?
I don't
want to know the vote.
I don't need to.
You don't need to.
And I didn't want to embarrass you.
Why not?
Because I know the score.
So, don't you think I should read it out, though?
Oh, go on, read it out, then.
I mean, there were 1,623 votes cast
Fantastic
up until
number
now,
of votes, which
is very good indeed.
Yeah.
The end result was this, as follows: 49% for me, 51% for you.
Woo, woo, woo,
so,
woo, woo,
congratulations. Please calm down. People's dogs will be upset.
I mean, that was a fantastic victory for me, because you know why?
Why?
Because everybody said that, you as usual, gerrymandered the whole thing, right?
How did I?
Well, because, you know the chap who was the restaurateur critic who came in yesterday?
What was his name?
Name of Jay.
Jay what?
Jay Rayner.
Well done. Well done. That is the best recollection you've ever had on this show of a guy who was on yesterday.
And his Twitter handle was JRayner1.
It was.
And after the show
You're still getting a lot of clog, by the way,
after
from various listeners to this show.
We got into a bit of verbals. By the way, I didn't know the verbals were going on until later on, because I was watching the football. And then I suddenly checked on my my information device to find that you're in.
Well, I took my daughter and fiancé out for dinner, and when I got home, he'd started up again. So I thought I'd better give him a few.
But anyway, I did
a few pieces of free advice.
I did feel that because of our history, I should support you a little there. So
Well, you didn't, though.
I did. I insinuated that he was brighter, that you were brighter than him.
You did late. Well, that's obviously true. You did that later.
Well, that's only found out about it later. But anyway, look, the point is, you nominated him as a loser.
Well, he had to be.
Right at the last
he
moment.
Had to be nominated
winners and losers.
He had to be.
And took a surge of support for that. What did I do? As usual, I just applied myself.
You went for Claudio Ranieri's mum.
To the logical argument, and in the end, the vote turned round, and I was victorious.
Yeah.
Victorious!
That's good. Well, that makes it now 1.5 to 1.5.
Well,
so it's odds even. I love how excited you get when you just win one tiny little competition. It's pathetic, really. This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics coming up a little bit later on this hour. Ask Porky. If you haven't had a chance to have Porky sort out your personal problems, your financial difficulties and any sort of dilemmas you may have had in the past, all you've got to do is tweet us at the two mics, or of course you can find us on Facebook and put one of your questions on there. You're here to help, aren't you?
What?
Are you here to help?
I'm absolutely here to help. If anyone wants another way to Cardiff, by the way, at the weekend, I can help with that as well. Just get on the M4 and keep going.
Yeah, and keep going.
Okay, nothing around. There's a place called the Tram Shed. See you there Saturday night, okay?
All right. Now, I'm delighted to say Mr. Stephen Lillywhite, legendary Grammy Award-winning producer of all sorts of fantastic music over the years, has joined us. He's a massive Chelsea fan. He must have been watching last night with a mixture of trepidation and
horror,
fear that Tottenham might end up winning the Premier League ahead of them. Steve, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon to you too, boys.
How lovely to be talking to you during the daylight hours.
I know. I'm on prime time with you two wonderful men. That's great news.
It certainly is.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I was. Half time. It was like, oh my God, Chelsea was so bad, and then we brought on Eden Hazard, and he absolutely. He was the same player as we had last year.
Yeah. But somebody's obviously kidnapped him for the earlier part of the season up until last night and replaced him with somebody who wasn't Eden Hazard.
Yeah, it's so weird. And, it really makes you think, doesn't it, about managers, how that there is no question that Mourinho is a better manager than Ranieri. But at the end of the day, it's putting the right combinations together. And Leicester just did it. It was fantastic. It was.
Steve, where does this put Chelsea now in the sense that they were one of the big four? They're not anymore, if you look at the current Premier League table.
No,
and,
you're right.
And not only are they not a member of the big four, they are now, the big four itself, even if they were, is being infiltrated by clubs who have decided we are not beaten like we used to be before we even go on the pitch.
Asked everyone we've had on that question.
No, against the likes of Chelsea.
No, I believe there are a good 7 clubs who are all in with a chance now. With Liverpool and West Ham and Leicester now adding to the 4 that we have. And then, of course, there's West Ham, West Ham as well.
Yeah.
And even Southampton, have played some great football.
Could well be.
So I agree with what Piers Morgan was saying. I would say Arsenal may well be squeezed out of it a little bit, and wouldn't that be nice for everybody?
Well, I mean, it'd be very nice for Chelsea fans.
Make a change.
Gus Hiddink reckons Antonio Conte has to come in and basically either win the Premier League or at least, come second or challenge for it in a massive way. Because Hiddink has only won one home game since he's taken over, which is extraordinary, really.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is Chelsea will not have Champions League football next season. And that gives us a very good chance of doing better in the Premier League. Because if you look at Leicester, you look at that season that Liverpool did so well, it's it really, I mean, look at Man City this season. They're not doing so well because they're concentrating on the Champions League. So, can you do well in England in both? I'm not sure. You can in Spain because, they don't have such a competitive league. But because we have such a competitive league, I think it might be difficult.
Yeah, except that there's a huge burden of guilt towards the reputation of the club when you're not competing in the Champions League. Or at least I'm sure Mr. Abramovich sees it that way.
Oh, absolutely. He needs to talk to his rich friends and say, this is, and if you can't talk to your rich friends about your European games, it's not so good.
Exactly.
It's all about that.
But if you start looking around even the rest of Europe for, what you would call sort of superstar players, there's not that many really that Chelsea can go for, are there?
Well, no. I mean, will Pogba come to Chelsea now with no Champions League? It's going to be difficult. It's, we have to hold on to our players. We've been apparently offered 70 million for Courtois. So, you've got to take that. That's, 70 million for a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
I'd say the most embarrassing threat to you, pal, is Spurs and what they could do.
Yes, absolutely. And Spurs are a young team. They're a very together team. They love poking people's eyes out. And
yeah, they do, actually, yeah.
You said he wasn't. You said it wasn't a gouge.
No, it wasn't. I thought
Porky obviously sort of needs some new glasses because he doesn't think that it was a gouge at all.
I thought he got him on the cheekbone. To be honest, I don't think he put his fingers in his eye. Otherwise, the guy would have been rolling round with one of his eye sockets out.
I mean, Costa, to be honest, does often make the most of
course
situations, and he didn't. So it makes me think you might possibly be on the edge of right, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Tell this co-presenter of mine, will you, that occasionally I get it right.
Do you want to tell Steve what you said about Leicester last year, or do we have to play that out again?
I said it was.
I think you've played it a lot of times, Mike.
Just
yeah,
twice.
I mean, we need it again. I said it was a weird appointment.
No, you said that they would be relegated.
I said it was a weird appointment, and that's in writing in a national newspaper this morning, Steve. When
You
the
said they would be
Portmaster
relegated.
speaks. When the Portmaster speaks, others listen to me.
I don't think I don't think you need to be reminded of it because you know that you did say it. But let's hear it just one more time.
I think Leicester will be one of the relegated clubs this season. I think they really flirted with danger last season, but I think the difference that kept them up was Nigel Pearson.
Yeah.
But Mr. Ranieri, I'm afraid I think he's all over the shop.
I actually think Leicester are going to be okay with Ranieri. I think he's rather a clever guy. There you have it, Steve.
Yes, I know, but in Porky's defence, Mike Graham, you tend to sit on the fence on everything.
Exactly.
Well, I said I thought he'd be very good for Leicester. I'm not claiming that I was some kind of seer or anything like that. All I'm saying is I thought he'd be very good, and almost everybody else said that he was a disaster. So, I'm not in any way trying to pat myself on the back here.
I completely agree. And, has anyone interviewed Nigel Pearson since they won it? He's sort of disappeared.
Well, I think that's an amazing point you've made there, because how must he feel today, bearing in mind that their form to avoid relegation last season is very similar.
Was winning form.
That's what I'm saying.
Form.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Their form to avoid relegation last season is very similar to the form that's won them the Premiership this season. So that might have just kept going over the summer. I'd be fascinated to know how he thinks about it. He brought most of the players to the club, didn't he? Who've gone on and won them the title.
Very true. Now, a couple of things have happened since we last spoke, Steve. You might have heard myself and Porky talking about this super concert that Coachella are trying to put together out in California in October, which is going to involve, as far as Porky is concerned, a load of old gits who shouldn't be anywhere near a microphone, which is pretty ironic coming from him. But the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, Neil Young,
and the
Who, all sorts of other people. Will you be taking part in any of that nonsense?
I don't think so. I've got to say it's going to be a fantastic concert. Because these people in general, they grew up playing live and they can still do it. I'm always amazed by the Stones, how they manage to, they don't use lots of tapes. Lots of other new bands use a lot of backing tapes, and Coldplay and U2 even do that. But the Rolling Stones just play as a band, and that's very much Keith Richards' philosophy, is to keep it simple and keep it rocking. So the Stones are going to be great. I love Neil Young. I love the Who. I mean, it's.
But Steve, it wasn't just me who said, I think that you're all getting a bit old for this. Who was the superstar? Paul Gambaccini.
Well, he's not a superstar.
Not a superstar, but I mean a man who's, was a legendary broadcaster in this country. He said, I think it's getting a bit over the top now. Who wants to hear these guys at their age? So it wasn't me saying that.
But also, the other one I wanted to ask you about was this Led Zeppelin lawsuit that's going out there as well, because everyone says that, everything in a way is derivative. You've worked with most of the big bands in the world. Have you ever been, has anyone aside from, these guys are being accused of stealing Stairway to Heaven as a song from somebody who was on their kind of tour with them. I was saying...
from Spirit, yes. Yeah. I know both songs.
Yeah, and they were working together. They, it's entirely possible, but they were in such a state they didn't remember where they picked it up from. Is it all derivative? Does somebody always pinch somebody else's stuff?
Well, I think much more nowadays that happens. When people go into the studio nowadays, they go, if they start a song that sounds like another one, they go, "Oh, that's great. That sounds like this hit." Back in the day, and I honestly believe this, most artists, if they did a song that sounded like someone else's, they made sure they changed it because it was uncool to sound like someone else. You were always trying to be innovative. But nowadays, everyone, they think, well, that's a hit. If our song sounds a bit like that, it's great. So it's
I'll tell you what I think happened, Steve. I think the explosion of music in the 60s, right, when people picked up guitars and kept playing them, I think the groups in the 60s, like the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and the Hollies, got through most of the available chords that make up a great song, and anything that's been written since then inevitably sounds a bit like a classic from those days.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. I think that's why rock music is dying, because I think it's a sort of an art form that's run its course. I think most of the great songs on two guitars, bass and drums have been written.
Exactly.
It's difficult, you know. I mean, occasionally you get a good band. I mean, I think the Arctic Monkeys are a particularly good band. But I was talking to someone
never heard of them.
Of course I have, you idiot.
Where are they from?
Cardiff.
Cardiff?
Yes. They're from Wales. They're from Swansea.
No, they're not.
They are.
Yeah, they're from Sheffield.
Sheffield, that's right, yeah. Who are the other ones from Wales, then?
Well, there's a Stereophonics.
Stereophonics, that's the one I was thinking about.
Easy to confuse the two.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Steve?
Yeah. Quite right.
That's so funny.
It's the
gift.
gift.
Look, boys.
Go on.
So...
We got to go.
You've got to go, yes.
We've got to go.
It's been great talking to you.
Delightful talking to you, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, it's always great to have you on. Thank you very much indeed. You bring common sense and a sense of vitality to the show, which is sometimes missing.
Oh, thank you, sir. I just have one... When people are talking about Prince as being one of the greats, yes. I have recently given this opinion that he's not one of the greats, because what Prince lacked was self-editing.
Oh.
Prince was not good... Basically, Prince thought everything he did was fine. Yeah. And I think
that's three. You know what that is? That's proof that there are now three things that Porky and he have in common, because he does not know how to self-edit. He thinks everything he does is fine. He also didn't sleep very much, no more than 3 hours a night, and he's very short.
Yeah, they're completely incomprehensible. What do you mean he didn't self-edit? You're saying that he
had time for this?
No, he never looked at his own material and said, "I'll take the worst bits out." He thought it was all good, did he?
He everything he thought was great. Someone like Michael Jackson was completely worried all the time, and it showed. You know, Michael Jackson made brilliant records.
Yeah.
The Beatles made brilliant records.
Yeah.
Prince had flashes of brilliance, but there was always one good song, and the rest of the album was rubbish.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
this is he was just not a good self-editor, because he. Anyway, that's my theory about it.
That's a very interesting theory. Steve, thank you very much indeed. Steve Lillywhite there talking to us about his beloved Chelsea, but also about his beloved music business as well. We've got Ask Porky coming up a little bit later on. This is talkSPORT. Ask Porky coming up a little bit later on in this hour. If you want a question answered, a problem solved, you know what to do. You can tweet us at the Two Mics, you can text us on 81089, and you can find us on Facebook, of course, the Two Mics as well, and get yourself sorted out. Now, we haven't done personal listography yet, by the way.
No, we haven't, no.
From our favourite newspaper, The New Day.
Well, you've seen the story on the front.
They've also managed to do an entire front page without mentioning Leicester. Now, I know that they supposedly are a newspaper aimed entirely at women.
Yes.
But do they really think that Leicester does not bear any kind of resemblance to a front page story at all?
Well, hang on. Are they
the only newspaper in the world that hasn't got Leicester on the front page?
Are they also saying that Leicester doesn't have any women fans?
Well, I presume that's what they are saying. They've got a very small picture.
I think about 30% of Leicester fans are women.
Yeah, well, but very.
And their story on the front, if I've got it right, because I glanced at it this morning, is about a disease that somebody's picked up in Brazil, isn't it?
Yes. Expat struck down while working in Brazil slums.
Yes.
Can happen, that, if you go work in Brazil slums.
It can.
You can pick up some nasty sort of illnesses.
It doesn't usually end up on the front page of a newspaper in Great Britain.
Well, he's British.
Well, I know he's British, but I know it's a relevant sort of thing to report.
Yeah.
But does it really dominate the news agenda today?
I wouldn't have thought so.
As you quite rightly
Shocking.
say, on
anyway,
on
do you want to know what
your
three listing things are this morning?
Yes, please.
This afternoon, I should say. List your 3 favourite books.
3 favourite books.
This should be easy for you.
Yes.
Go on.
My 3 favourite books are...
The Beano?
No, don't be idiotic. Without sort of getting into the history of Everton.
Presumably one of your own books, with the Rooney Tunes?
Well, no, I'm not going to be big-headed and boast about the fact that, my books have been bestsellers or anything like that. So I would say my 3 favourite books are...
In reverse order?
Well, in any order, really.
Any order. Go on.
The first one is The Pillars of the World.
Pillars of the World.
It was a novel written by the guy who was the big donor to Labour, and his wife became a Labour MP.
What's his name?
Very famous author.
Do you mean Ken Follett?
Ken Follett, thank you. Yeah, great. It was a fantastic book because it brought into perspective
I don't want to know why you like it. I just want to know the name of the book.
Right, OK. So
Number 2.
Number 2 would be, let me see, my second favourite
Can I hurry you up on this, please?
Yeah, OK. I'll tell you what it is.
Go on.
It's a book written by that great American author who...
John Dos Passos?
No. He was...
Ernest Hemingway?
He's the first guy to write really racy books, and this one was called Nevada Smith. Carpetbaggers. The Carpetbaggers.
Do you mean Harold Robbins?
Harold Robbins, The Carpetbaggers. Right. That's my second favourite book.
Can you try and give me the third book with the author's name that you actually know?
Yeah, OK. The third great book I read, and which I will remember forever, was... It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet by James Herriot.
OK.
OK? How's that?
Well, the thing that surprises me about all of that, right?
Right.
Is there's no mention of Shakespeare. And you mentioned Shakespeare yesterday about all these great words and phrases, right?
Yep.
And we've also unearthed this morning from your kind of mad video days on Two Mics TV.
Oh, really? Never mind a horse, a kingdom for my horse, or my kingdom for a horse. No. What about a donkey in exchange for a trophy? Yes, that's what I brought you. The spirit of Richard III still lieth beneath Leicester. Leicester, of course. County town of Leicestershire, where I fought my battles, the Battle of Boswell, no less. Now then, is this a trophy I see in front of me coming my way? Till Dunsinane Hill does move, Leicester will never win a trophy. Oh, poor Claudio. I knew him well. I knew him as the Tinker Man, and now I know him as the Man. Oh, Claudio. Where art thou, Claudio?
Dear me. Talk about a Shakespeare mashup. If you want to see the whole thing, it's on Two Mics TV on YouTube, but we'll send out a link on Twitter.
Well, I was asked just to do a sort of...
you were asked to.
A visual...
Remember what Steve Lillywhite said about
tribute.
No self-editing?
Yeah.
You think Prince thought everything he did was good?
I want to do that again because, like the out-out...
Don't do it again.
Out-out damn spot.
Yeah.
It should have been out-out damn penalty spot, of course.
Well,
but I got sort of chipped out. You know what I mean?
What, you got edited out?
Yeah, well, it just sort of fell out. These words do on digital editing, as I'm told.
Digital editing.
Anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
Right now then, what I want to talk to you about is.
Well, you haven't got very much time to talk about anything now.
Why?
Well, because we've been listening to all that nonsense about you quoting from Richard III. No makeup required, by the way, for your impersonation of Richard III.
Well, I didn't ask you to do that. I mean, I had no part in that. I merely respond to what is...
requests from your doting public.
Well, largely demands from the audience. That's largely what I respond to.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
There's a lot of demands from the audience. Some of them say, please get Mike Parry off the air, but we don't respond to those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, well, I do love you all.
Thank you very much. This is talkSPORT.
Mostly.
We are the Two Mics. Ask Porky coming up very, very shortly. But
Indeed.
a very interesting story has crossed our desks in the last few hours. And it's all about travel because, of course, summer holiday is not far away now. And kids are going to be going away for half term soon. And people are getting on planes all the time. Apparently, air rage is now a massive thing.
Well, it's not only is it a massive thing, and we've got Simon with us. I'm delighted because I'd love to hear his view on this. But the report I read said that air rage is often triggered on aeroplanes where there is a first-class cabin which breed resentment amongst passengers further down the plane. From my own point of view, Simon, good to see you on the show.
Calder,
thank you very much, Simon. Yeah, welcome.
Simon, are you there? I don't know if Simon is there.
Simon's there. Anyway, what I'm saying is, Mike, from my own experience, not that I've ever been involved in air rage, but I keep...
Certainly hope not.
No, I keep note of when these things happen. They normally seem to happen on low-budget flights going to places in Europe where a bunch of guys are celebrating the stag weekend.
Well, that's when you read about them, don't you? I mean, that's when you read that, a bunch of guys maybe going on a stag weekend have got a bit unruly. Planes have had to be landed in emergency situations. They've been kicked off, the plane carries on and all that. I wonder as well...
hen parties with ladies, by the way.
I wonder as well whether or not actually it's because they've not just got first class, but they've now broken down, what used to be known as economy into about 4 different places.
Premium economy,
premium economy,
upper economy, and all that kind of stuff.
Economy. They've also not also got now proposals to put into place, sort of basic economy where you get nothing at all.
I think they're going to third class, aren't they? Like third class seats.
It's something like that. Let's find out from Simon Calder, who I think is now there. Simon, a very good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I was struggling through security into my fourth class seat.
No, Simon, it's fine. Simon, what do you think about this theory that I read this morning? Air rage incidents are more likely to happen on planes with a first class section because it triggers resentment amongst the economy passengers. A new study reveals. I thought it was all on budget flights going off to stag nights in Europe and all that kind of stuff.
It's much more complicated than that. According to Katie DeSells, and since she teaches organisational behaviour at the University of Toronto, and you don't and I don't, I think we have to take her word for it.
Right.
But yes, the very fact that there are some people are more equal than others means that you and I walking through business class on the way to the back of the plane will feel resentful, obviously. And even the people who are there will think that they have the right to be feel more special than they are.
Well, especially when they're sitting there clutching a flute of champagne as they watch the riffraff all passing through.
Supposing as one of the riffraff, I'm dawdling in duty free and I hold them up, that's going to enrage them because they're going to think, hang on, I paid thousands of pounds for this, and Calder's dossing about as usual, and he's costing me time. So there's a lot of emotion flooding around, and while in a business class seat, and you're talking in a one class all economy no frills seat, it's not much fun, but we're all pretty much the same. Once you've got business, it all gets all these dynamics working, and it means that the first class passengers behave worse and the economy class passengers behave worse as well.
Golly, that's terrible. I mean, I tell you what I've had in the past. Sometimes I've been on a flight where I've been fortunate enough to be in first class or business class, and some of the people I'm working with...
upgrade, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the people I'm working with are lower down the plane. So
as always.
What do you mean, your bag carriers?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, to make up for that and ease my conscience, I send a few little half bottles of champagne down, so they can have a...
kind of you.
Yeah, a little bit there. Now, that does actually create resentment, because that's all right for the guys who are associated with me, but the people sitting next to them want to know why they've got a free half bottle of champagne and nobody else has.
Oh, well, look, I
life's
think
not fair, Simon.
Life isn't fair, and since you brought alcohol into it, you did just now. Let's talk about that. Of course, anybody at the front of the plane gets unlimited drink to shove down their necks, and that doesn't do good things. And that's why I think we see a very high incidence of air rage among business and first class passengers, simply because if they've been in the executive lounge before their flight, they've sunk a few there.
Well, that's true.
They get on board as soon as you can't sit down in business class, I understand, without somebody giving you a flute of champagne. And it just carries on like that.
But isn't there also a thing, Simon, where an awful lot of people now who sit in business class, particularly on long haul flights, are there because they've racked up loads of air miles and they managed to get themselves upgraded. So there'll be those people in there who've actually paid to be there, and others who perhaps haven't.
Well, look, in the community of airline travellers, I don't think you would find much anger about people who've managed to find one of the rare seats where you can get upgraded for using your points, because they'll feel that at least there's a loyal, long-suffering road warrior.
Right.
It's the people who get free upgrades who really narc them. So that's either the last person to check into economy and there wasn't a seat left, and they bring their smelly old stuff into business class. Alternatively, it's airline staff.
Yes.
Because guess what? Like any industry, they look after their own, and therefore if you know the right people in an airline, and you say, oh, look, me and my girlfriend are flying off to Barcelona, then it's unlikely you're going to be stuck at the back of the plane. It's more likely that you're going to be down the front with all these people who spent hundreds of pounds.
It happens all the time. However, if it's a group of very attractive hostesses who are just coming back from a previous job,
I think we say we refer to them as flight attendants or cabin crew,
cabin crew and all that kind of stuff. Then one usually doesn't object. The other problem, of course, Simon, and you've highlighted the amount of availability of booze before even getting on the plane, is it sometimes can destroy lives. We've already had cases in the past of people getting amorous with each other once they're in the air after meeting in the departure lounge and all this kind of stuff,
You haven't done any of that, have you?
Sorry?
You haven't done
I haven't. I'm very wary of it. When I get approached by strange ladies...
you did once book yourself into the seat next to a rather attractive female reporter who you'd sent to New York, didn't you?
Well, that was on Virgin Upper Class, and there just happened to be a spare seat next to where she was sitting, so I moved in.
Sorry, I must have been misinformed.
Yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely.
Simon.
Absolutely.
Look, my goodness me, I think there is some of that stuff which goes on, and it's much more likely, of course, to go on in business class where there's a bit more room and a bit more privacy. You try kicking off with all that malarkey down the back of the plane.
Yeah,
and,
good luck.
It's not,
You're absolutely right. Hanky-panky can only happen where there's plenty of space for the old, rudderisation
Sadly, Simon, we've run out of time before Paulie gets a bit carried away with some of his previous encounters at the Mile High Club. Anyway, Simon, thank you very much indeed.
Great to talk
We'll talk to you again soon. Simon Calder, their travel expert, of course. Coming up next, we have the lovely feature called Ask Porky, which is when, if you need any help with any kind of problems that you may have been having over the recent times, Mr. Parry's here to help. He will give you the best piece of advice that he can. Let's kick off with one from Johnny, who has texted us into 81089. He says, "Hi, Porky. My employer may soon be offering voluntary redundancy. Should I take the money and run, or play it safe and stay put? I'm 54 and would need to get another job."
Yeah, that entirely depends on what you think your prospects are. At 54, it's a dodgy age, that, because there might be a bit of ageism going on in this country where they don't want to employ you because you're of that age. However, I would say it's a fantastic opportunity at 54. Don't get stuck in a humdrum job. If somebody's going to give you a bung of cash, you can go off into the world, start something new and be very successful. My verdict, take the money and run.
William says this on Twitter. Porky, I want to be a best-selling author like you. Can you tell me how to start off on the road to being a novelist?
Well, first of all, you've got to write a book. And then when you've written a book, you've got to find somebody who's interested in that book. So get yourself a literary agent. But most of all, have a look at the opportunities these days to self-publish, because that is a way of making yourself millions. Believe me, you've got to have faith in your own writing abilities. If your book's any good, start trailing it on social networking and get it into print on the...
social networking?
Social networking. Get it into print on the old net there, and once people start subscribing to it, you can make yourself millions. It's got to be good, though.
TMF says this. If you were Claudio Ranieri, would you walk away now, as how could you top his achievement going out at the end of this season?
Well, funny enough, I think that's got to be an attraction to him. Even if it's not an attraction, it's got to be a temptation. I mean, how many people know when to really cop out and say... I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson did, for instance, OK?
He did?
Now, if Claudio...
Tony Blair didn't.
Tony Blair definitely didn't.
Oh, but Thatcher didn't.
No, they'll stay too long.
You haven't?
No, I haven't finished yet. I haven't reached my peak yet. When I reach my peak, I will cop out. Now, what I was going to say is, the only downer on that is that after such a momentous thing to have done, after 20 years working as a manager, surely you're going to stay another one season to enjoy the benefits of training yourself around the country with your team and saying, here come the champions. I don't think he will go, but I think he should go perhaps in a year's time.
Now, that leads us on to one from Mark on Facebook. He says, "Hey, Porky, what's your next big challenge that you're going to overcome?"
The next big challenge is tomorrow morning when I get up. You've got to remember that only 1/3 of my heart works, and for that reason, every day is a challenge. To get through that day takes, a certain amount of stubbornness to make sure that though life is constantly slapping you in the face, though life is constantly kicking you in the groin, though life is constantly treading on your toes, do you know what you do? You laugh in the face of adversity and say, "Pah! My name's Porky, I get on with it."
OK. Richard says this. Does the winner of the Europa League go automatically into the group stage of the Champions League?
Well, that's a bit of a complicated mechanic. If Liverpool win the Europa League and Manchester City win the Champions League but finish 5th, then Liverpool will have to go into the qualifiers. However, if Manchester City have finished 4th, or 3rd, I should say, and won the Champions League, Liverpool go straight into the qualifier, straight into the group stages.
So not straightforward, as you say.
No.
Sash says this. I'm a doctor, 3 years from consultancy, considering a PhD versus corporate work. Should I seek a better life or a cure for cancer?
Well, obviously, it's going for a cure for cancer. If you're going into research and all that, is a very, very worthy thing to pursue. However, people have been looking for a cure for cancer for 100 years. They haven't found it yet, so I'm not sure you will, unless you're a genius. If I were you and you're going to become a medical consultant, I'd say there's a lot of problems in the health industry. I don't mean the health service, I mean the health industry in this country. Personally, if it's me, I'd push off to Rodeo Drive in California, make myself millions, and get on with driving a convertible Mercedes up and down the Pacific Coast Highway.
Dave says this on Facebook. Seeing as Burnley just got promoted, can we have a Sean Dyche impression, please?
I knew we'd do it. I said to the lads, I said, what's he got to do? All we got to do is put the effort in and we'll get our reward.
Yeah, well, it's all fine except for the northern bit.
What?
He's not from the north.
No, not from the north. No,
never mind. Andy says this. Hi guys, what should I do? What should I do? Jay Rayner popped up in my dream last night, dressed as a big chip. How do I clear these thoughts?
Do you know what I'd do? I'd have gone and got myself a load of vinegar and put it all over myself, and then salt, poured it over myself. Then, do you know what I'd done? Throw myself out the window.
Here's one from TMU. In personal listography that we do from the back of the New Day, he's got one that he's made up. Can you name your 3 favourite tinned products?
Yes, I can. Baked beans, oxtail soup,
right.
Both of which are Heinz. And thirdly, anybody's version...
They don't have to be Heinz, of course. It can be any variety.
It can be any variety. Anybody's version of mandarin oranges.
Here's one from Richard on Facebook. Porky, the film of your life is long overdue.
Yes.
Is there anything in the pipeline? I mean, after all, you know all these people from the world of film and television, don't you?
Yes, I do,
Peaky Blinders guys.
Sorry?
The Peaky Blinders guys.
Peaky Blinders guys and all that kind of stuff. Can I just say that, there could be things underway.
There could be?
Could be things underway.
Will there be apart from me in it?
No, definitely not.
Really?
No. I'm having a scumbag like you into,
there's just no way to keep you civil, is there?
To be a scar on my my glorious...
Your life would be nothing without me,
my glorious chapters of life. My life would be everything without you.
Would it? All right, see how you get on tomorrow then.
Yeah.
We'll lock you out the building.
Yeah.
Lee says this, my team, Dundee United, have just been relegated by our smaller rivals, Dundee.
Wow.
When can I leave the house again? Please help me, Porky.
Well, it is a shameful thing to have to go through, but remember, it's not your fault. It's not necessarily your fault. What I would do is, you know what I would do? I would parley with the opposition, because I think on these sort of occasions you have to. It's either that or... I don't know, grab a boat and row to the Faroe Islands, stay there for a couple of months until the pain is gone.
Yeah, Faroe Islands.
I don't actually know Dundee too well, except for the fact that Dundee, it's Jim from Dundee, and I work on the Dandy. The Dandy comes from Dundee, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
D.C. Thompson.
Yeah.
And also Dundee Cake I know about, that's pretty good.
Yeah, OK.
Oh, Dundee, the guy who was the
Crocodile
Australian...
Dundee.
Crocodile.
Nothing to do with Dundee, really.
No.
Becca says, how long can you be in a room with MG before you start an argument or insult him?
Not long. It depends how much bladderation has been in operation by the time we get to the point where he starts to interfere in aspects of my life, to interrupt when I'm having conversations with people, and to generally and basically try and big himself up in front of me to make himself look more than what he is, a creep.
Is that it?
Yes.
OK. How about this one then, from Andrew, who also remembers something you said earlier. Porky said a few months ago that if Leicester City win the league, he will come to Melton Mowbray, my hometown, and eat all the pork pies. Please can you tell me which day this will be?
Well, that's not actually going to happen, because...
Well, it's just like the Bournemouth Pier scenario.
No, I wasn't allowed to jump off the Bournemouth Pier, and the problem is that whilst I would like a pork pie a day and would easily eat one for 12 days, because I think I said I'd eat 12 at once... I have since then seen my consultant, Dr. Nicholas Banner.
Yeah.
I raised it with him, and he said, no, it wouldn't be good news to eat 12 Melton Mowbray pork pies at the same time, because only 1/3 of my heart works.
So you've been banned then from that, have you?
Banned.
Peter says this, Porky, my mate thinks the Earth is flat and that NASA is a machine for lies. I think he's an idiot. Am I wrong? The Flat Earth movement is quite big online.
No, the guy's off his rocker, and whilst I have tremendous sympathy for people who have mental health problems, he just sounds like a bit of a loser and a half-bake.
OK. Thank you very much indeed. That was Ask Porky for another week. There will be another one, of course, next week. Coming up later on this week, it will be the Porky quiz and Porky Vision tomorrow. We have to decide on the quiz.
We've decided on the quiz.
Well, we haven't yet.
Paul McCartney.
We have to talk about that. This is talkSPORT. Time to find out who's won the final slice of cash today, Mr. Parry, thanks to Papa John's.
Yes, indeed it is. Now, earlier I asked you who was the first British player to break the £1 million transfer fee mark.
Yes, so the correct answer, of course, was Trevor Francis.
It certainly was. Well done to Paul from Windsor. Yeah, fine city. You've won yourself the final slice of today's cash prize. £100 is on its way to you. Now, there will be another 3 chances to win on tomorrow's show, and it's all thanks to Papa John's. So celebrate this summer with Papa John's, better ingredients for a better pizza.
Jacob's Millions on talkSPORT with Papa John's. Sign up now for your chance to win €1 million at www.amillionfans.com. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply.
You think Windsor's a city, do you?
It's a town.
It's not a city, is it?
No, but it's got a big castle, and that equates to a cathedral.
Well, I mean, What better
Excuse me.
note to end a show on? I can give you now.
Hang on.
Mr. Adrian Durham. How is a castle a cathedral?
Have you never seen the Great Chapel at Windsor Castle?
I was there when it was burning down, mate.
Thank you. It's bigger than a cathedral. Eh?
No, I set fire to the fire escape. No, that wasn't me either.
No.
Was it Jay Rayner's cooking?
It was Jay Rayner. Jay Rayner burnt the buns again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. By the way, in talkSPORT traditions, Mr. Parry will know all about this. Did anybody else think Jamie Vardy's party was a little bit tame? I mean, at talkSPORT, we could teach the Leicester lads a thing or two.
Well, I think we could. I was worried about his carpets, curtains, and his sofas. Do you see them all climbing all over the sofas? And I wanted to know.
Such an old woman, isn't it?
Did they take their shoes off before they got in there? Come on, Robin knows what I mean, don't you? Would you have a load of people trampling over your sofas, your curtains, your carpets, your couches if they haven't taken their shoes off? I
Don't
wouldn't.
involve me in your madness.
Sorry, I'd get them all out. They'd all have to stay in the conservatory if they're in my place.
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV. You said that he would be no good, whereas on the other hand, you think Gary
I didn't
Neville.
say that. I think Leicester will be one of the relegated clubs this season. Mr. Ranieri, I'm afraid I think he's all over the shop.
Mike Graham was one of the few people, any pundit around the country, around the world, who actually
But
said
that's only
Claudio
because-
Ranieri would be great for Leicester. I actually think Leicester are going to be okay with Ranieri. I think he's
Okay.
rather a clever guy. Please calm down.
Victor!
Well, you know, that makes it...
Leicestershire, where I fought my battles, the Battle of Boswell, no less. Now then, is this a trophy I see in front of me coming my way? Excuse me, just shut your mouth.
Sorry about this,
please. Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City. Leicester used to be a tip, but now he's gone and won them the Premiership. Next year Leicester play at Inter Milan. They won't believe the manager's the Tinker Man. Oh, Claudio Ranieri, newly crowned Messiah of Leicester City.
Rubbish.